It's just going to be mush.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're talking about this. But if he hulked out while they're having intercourse, she's dead.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
This episode of SinCast is brought to you by Mubi, a curated online cinema streaming exceptional films from around the globe. Each day, Mubi introduces a new gem and you have 1 month to watch it. From cult classics to acclaimed masterpieces, every film is hand-selected by experts. Try Mubi free for 30 days at mubi.com/cinemasins. That's mubi.com/cinemasins for your extended free trial. All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Hello.
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Howdy.
We kept it simple, stupid.
Simple, comma, stupid.
That's right. So we just watched Infinity War and decided to let's talk about the Marvel universe as a whole, the whole 19 movies that have come out.
Yeah.
Wakanda forever!
Truth is, I am Iron Man.
That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry.
Dance off, bro. Me and you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
I have an army. We have a Hulk.
Language.
Is that number right? Because I know I keep fudging it every time I bring it up.
Yes, it's 19.
And this one, Infinity War, is the 19th?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They couldn't have just made it 20?
No.
I'm sorry.
Although,
I like things to be tidy.
That brings something up that I kind of wanted to bring up during the Infinity War mini-pod was that it would have been nice, maybe, and I think they could have done well with it, to come up with a Thanos movie.
Oh.
Now this was
I think so too.
This was Thanos's movie.
Right.
Sure.
But it wasn't the Thanos movie
Right.
or anything like that. And I feel like we could have gotten a lot of things, and they could have done, who knows? And then maybe they didn't think about it. Maybe they did think about it, but they couldn't get everybody together to make it, whatever. But it feels like it would have been nice to see all the things leading up to what they just throw you into on Infinity War. The attack on Xandar and attack on, and figuring out what his motivations are and all that. We had been seeing him in just in-credit scenes and
just floating around.
One brief moment of Guardians of the Galaxy and just some little things. You're like, okay, we know he wants the stones, but why hasn't he done it yet?
We could have gotten a little more mileage out of Glenn Close and John C. Reilly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's why that was one of my reservations with Infinity War, and this is no spoiler for Infinity War, is they ask you to really buy into this emotional impact for him that I didn't completely buy into because I didn't have that backstory.
Well,
we've just seen him be like villainous, and that's it.
This is a very interesting thing that I heard after we did our mini pod was I went and listened to Aaron's Sif Pop, the spoiler version of it or whatever, because that's where they go really down and deep into it. They had somebody on there who's like a comic books fan and everything, and he didn't like Thanos in this because the whole motivation for Thanos, doing what he does in that is that he's trying to impress death.
Oh.
And so
in
like
the comics.
right. Whereas they take that out of this and just say this is his lone motivation. It reminds me a little bit, I've talked about this before with Lord of the Rings in the movies where Gandalf sees the ring and he sees Sauron's eye and all this other bullshit. And then he goes off and researches.
Yeah.
Whereas in the book, he doesn't touch it or even come close to touching it. And it says, I better not try to touch it.
Yeah.
But I will go and investigate and everything. To take that one tiny thing out of Lord of the Rings sort of changes a lot of the whole reasons why people do this stuff. You can keep the action in there, but if you don't have those tiny reasons in there, sometimes you're like, why? He already knows what the fucking ring is. But same here. Like his motivations in here almost fall apart because there's no and this is coming from somebody who really, really enjoyed the movie. His motivations sort of fall apart there because you're like, there's a million things he could do, and we talked about it in the mini pod. Anyway, where do we want to start on this whole MCU thing? Do we want to go to Iron Man and where it all started? And
I think we should.
Yeah.
Or maybe even the Incredible Hulk.
Well, we could go with Iron Man. Iron Man was the that
first.
came out before Incredible Hulk. But I think what's crazy is that Iron Man holds up, at least for me, and I think you guys, as one of the best MCU movies still after 10 years.
Yeah, it still does for me. It's funny because in the mini pod, Chris was talking about how this is probably the best comic book adaptation for him since Dark Knight. And I'm like, well, what would be my favorite MCU? Because I didn't connect to it quite like that. And if you had a gun to my head and I had to pick my favorite MCU or the best MCU film, it would probably come down to either Iron Man or Black Panther. Maybe Spider-Man Homecoming for me, just because something about that hits a sweet spot for me.
Yeah, it's great.
But yeah, I mean, they were hitting it out of the park back with the very first one. And I know we said this before when we discussed the year, but it's insane to me that Iron Man and Dark Knight came out the same year.
Yeah.
Insane, because we did not appreciate it.
Yeah.
Back in 2008, we were not aware of what was happening.
Was it right around the same time that they came out?
Yeah, Iron Man came out in May of that year, and then Dark Knight came out in June, I believe,
Wow.
and then Incredible Hulk came out in July.
Wow.
That's crazy.
I think that's how that went. But yeah, that was, and all of them did very well. Obviously, Iron Man was, I think, ended up hitting 400 million.
Surprisingly, of course, because Jon Favreau, Robert Downey Jr.,
and
Iron Suit.
The talk leading up to it was that the effects looked terrible, and who's Iron Man, and all that. And
he's just their Marvel's version of Batman.
Right.
Yeah. Plenty of different ways to dismiss it.
But that first Iron Man has so many cool things in it. Him in the cave is probably one of the best sequences in all of the MCU.
It's almost been lost to time because you think about the I Am Iron Man, you think about Obadiah Stone and all that stuff. But that cave sequence is genuinely terrifying at times. I mean, he's being held hostage by militants. Yeah. And like you sense there's actual danger in each of those scenes, especially when they come in and question him.
Well, and he's got the shrapnel in his heart or whatever. Like he is literally inching closer to death. He's got to build this for multiple reasons, to survive and also escape.
Right.
Yeah, there's a sort of there's nothing else quite like that, is there?
No.
Because like we could have gotten some of that with Spider-Man, and we did with Tobey Maguire's version of him like making his own suit. And I guess we see Peter Parker's homemade suit in Homecoming, but we never really see him like making it, putting it together. This is like the only hero in the MCU that we really get to see the true origins of the suit, if you will. And so that's kind of unique and a great way to show off exactly how smart this guy is.
Yeah.
Tony
Stark built this in a cave with
Yeah.
spare parts.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges, man. He had the unequaled Jeff Bridges, man. And that guy, he can chew into some really, like, he read this. This is kind of silly.
What's crazy, I actually like him as a villain in this movie. I think the whole chummy thing that he does, he brings a little bit of weight to the performance. I know there's been better villains, especially recently, but I think he's very believable. His motivations are
well, he all this time, the Stark Industries and everything have been making weapons and selling them willy-nilly to whoever.
Yeah, making a fuck ton of money,
and now suddenly this guy has sort of what you would call a religious experience in a cave. And says we're gonna shut that down because I see the weapons that we make are destroying the world. And so but although I do wonder something about Iron Man, this was probably what I would put under curious moments, and I'm not sure if when I did this, I went back and wrote the plot down for the movie and like came up with curious moments and stuff like that. They're ready to kill him before he even makes that decision. So I don't know.
Stone is?
Yeah, because the whole thing is set up for him. He sets up that terrorist group to shoot down the jeeps and everything after he shows that big huge weapon and everything. So that plot is in motion before he even gets back and says, "I want to do this." So I'm wondering, was he having some sort of doubt before all of that. I don't think the movie says one way or another.
It might not. He may just want to take over sole ownership of the
It could just be greed,
Yeah.
But then when by the time he comes back and says we're not doing this anymore, he's like, all right, let's accelerate it. Yeah, it could just be pure greed and everything. But I don't think I wrote that down. Yeah, the only curious moment I wrote down for Iron Man is that how Obadiah gets into the new suit and is suddenly just Jesus in it.
Yeah. He knows exactly how to work it in every way.
Isn't there a part where he's like quiet as fuck until he like reveals himself? And I feel like I remember thinking, how the fuck is no one here? This giant ass guy walking around before he reveils himself. He's hiding behind the chains or something.
I think so, something like that. I can't remember one way or the other, but I know that they show painstakingly Tony like practicing in the suit and having all sorts of failures and everything like that. And they can't even get their suit ready because they can't build that arc reactor thing. Mm-hmm. They can't even build that thing. And that's where that whole, he built this in a cave, you know, and all that came from. So how does he get in there and like suddenly I know how to fly and I know how to do all this and that and everything?
That is very curious.
So that was my curious moment.
And he's no spring chicken either.
No. No. And of course, here's a classic thing. Now, this doesn't happen as much as I thought. Over the entire course of the MCU, it seems like there's a lot of the same versus same final battles and everything. Mm-hmm. Whereas in this case, it is a guy who has built an even stronger suit than even Tony has built and everything. His suit is better than Tony's all the way through this final battle. But of course, what tends to happen in these same versus same battles is not only is the enemy better or better suited to beat the good guy, but it usually ends up being your wits that in this case it was
with only our wit and will to defend us. Sorry. There's that one line Samuel Jackson says in one of those goddamn movies. I think it's Age of Ultron. So here we are with only our wit and will to protect us. Every time I think of the word wit, I think of that scene and I want to die. Sorry. I didn't mean to curtail things.
But he ends up winning because they fly up into the atmosphere and the whole freezing over thing happens and everything. That's sort of the main reason why he ends up winning. But yeah, Iron Man is all around solid. Just a solid movie.
What this did, and I guess it's a blueprint for the success and the homogeneity too, is that they took a weird choice at director and he knocked it out of the park, and they did that they do that throughout the universe. Of course, the famous example of it not working out is Edgar Wright, but like Kenneth Branagh and James Gunn and like all these like bizarre choices for directors tend to work out for them, and it's almost like they curtail them towards the latter part of it, and that's why you get the Marvel look. But taking a swing on these like innovators, I think, is what pays off in the long run.
Yeah,
even the Russo brothers.
And so this is the one that starts it all. The end credits is Nick Fury telling Tony about the Avengers initiative, and so that's the thing like that got people going, whoa, are you serious? The Avengers is going to be made into a movie at some point? Tell me more. I wrote down all that stuff. I wrote all the end credit scenes and I wrote down the Stan Lee cameos.
Nice.
So Stan Lee's cameo here is that Tony confuses him with Hugh Hefner. That's there's a whole like.
Is he actually Stan Lee in this?
Yeah. But okay. What do you mean?
Like, is his character Stan Lee? I can't remember what his cameo was.
He's just a rich guy at a party, and like Tony's like going around. You can see like camera flying around and stuff like that, and he's like, oh hey, famous person. He gets that person right. And then it goes to Stan Lee. He's like, oh, looking good, Hef. And then like, and that's how that goes. The next one to come out was The Incredible Hulk. Edward Norton as the Hulk, and it's almost impossible to remember that at this point.
I remember liking this movie.
Yeah, I mean it's decent. It's fine. Yeah, it's caught between origin story and sequel.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it?
Because they have
it should be like a regular movie. I guess, right?
Yeah, because they had made Hulk, the Ang Lee Hulk. And I think they realized, okay, we can't come out with another exact origin story so soon. Almost like what they would do with Spider-Man Homecoming and everything. It's in between origin story and sequel, although they do a really much better job in that. But Incredible Hulk though starts off by saying, here's all the stuff that has happened, and now he's in Brazil, and he's connecting with somebody who's like a Mr. Blue or something over the internet. And that guy, like, I know how to, if you give me enough samples, I can figure out how to get your blood back to normal. And so, like, I
always wondered, though, how do these people meet?
Yeah, I know.
Like, was he on, like, the gamma radiation dark web forum?
Maybe so.
Like, the movie presents it as, like, this is, like, one of the only guys in the world smart enough to work with Bruce to figure out how did they ever connect?
Yeah.
How did he ever connect? Like, I'm joking,
LinkedIn.
But I'm serious.
Yeah, it's LinkedIn.
It's the same.
It's LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. There has to have been an initial exchange. Yeah. I'm fascinated by how that went down. How did they? It's the same as Assassins. Like, because Stallone gets these, like, computer messages about who he should kill, but he doesn't even know who's sending them to him. Yeah. How did that ever start? I just got a spam asking me to kill someone. I guess I'll do it.
Yeah.
Let's look into this.
Yeah.
I love how the MCU discussion turned to Assassins.
Yes, it did.
Hey, I'll take anything I can to Assassins.
And of course, if you're in the Marvel universe at all, just like in X-Men, don't work at a factory. If you're trying, if you're trying to keep your identity secret and everything, don't work at a factory. Something's going to happen where people are like, something wrong with that dude or whatever. And like, in this one though, he cuts himself and blood goes into the soda bottle that that they're making the soda or something. And of course it gets shipped to, America. And this is the Stan Lee cameo in this movie, is that Stan Lee goes to his fridge and he drinks this Brazilian soda or whatever. They find out that he has some sort of weird, like, mutation after drinking it, and they trace the bottle to Brazil. That's how they're able to get the snuff banner out and everything. And then the rest of it is him looking for this. It's Tim Blake Nelson, who's one of the many characters, one of many actors who's played in both the Fox Marvel. He's played in the Fantastic Four reboot.
Oh yeah,
I forgot about that.
And then he's in this as well. And it's like Chris Evans has got that dual thing going on too. But yeah, most of it here is him coming back trying to find this doctor, and he goes back to his hometown. He wants to reunite with Betty, and Liv Tyler plays Betty in this one.
Poor bastard.
Yeah.
Jennifer Connelly and Liv Tyler.
Yeah.
Why don't you get some pretty girlfriends?
Yeah, exactly. For a change, just once. Is
she playing Betty too? Sorry. In Hulk. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, playing Betty. And then this is the introduction of William Hurt. He's not going to get reintroduced until way later, though.
I don't even understand why they brought him back.
Yeah,
because that was Civil War,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's in Infinity War as a hologram for like 30 seconds. But I mean,
yeah.
Really?
Seems like it would be.
I know that Incredible Hulk is technically part of the MCU, but you recast the Hulk. Like, why don't we just pretend that movie didn't exist? You make up some other General McWhatever and cast whoever you want.
Yeah.
Like, why did we have to go back to that well?
Let me ask you this. Why can we not have a Hulk movie? It seems like every time that I've seen that in a headline or something like that or in a story, it's dismissed. They're just like, well, we don't need a standalone Hulk movie.
No, it's not that. I think they just point to Incredible Hulk and Hulk as unsuccessful attempts.
But Ruffalo is so good, and
Ruffalo is good, but I think it's the character. I think it's a little bit of the Superman problem. There's only so many stories you can tell about the Incredible Hulk.
I think that's what it is,
a good point.
and most of them seem to revolve around, I want to get this out of me.
Yeah.
And so like every time on his journey to do this, he runs into people who know who he is, and then he has to turn into the Hulk, and then and so like the next time we see him, he's going to be doing that same thing over and over again. Yeah, he's got too much power, pretty much, and the only time we've seen him in the MCU get actually subdued is with the Hulk Buster suit and the fucking whatever what is that thing they build around him? They shoot this whole like like shoot a dome around him or something.
Yeah.
And there's like all that putty looking stuff or whatever.
Yeah, because with Thor, it's ostensibly a draw in Ragnarok. Right?
Yeah.
And in the first Avengers.
Yeah.
Basically a draw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, the MCU has been successful with Hulk, but let's not forget that like they just threw him off to space a few movies ago and ignored him until Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm still like wondering about that. He's like, "Oh, Quinjet," and he falls down in the and like and you're like, "Sure."
Oh, Quinjet!
How did he get to the trash planet?
I guess there's some sort of speculation that he was, but I don't remember this in Age of Ultron. Him actually, I know that he was in the plane and Black Widow was like, "Come back," and all that, and he just ignores her. And then they say he crashes somewhere around Fiji or something like that, but they don't know. They know the plane crashed.
How did he get to the devil's anus then?
I don't know.
Or whatever it
That's
was.
what I don't. Now, I from what I understand, the Quinjet can fly in space, but even if you could, I don't know how you just suddenly end up there.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, they haven't quite explained that yet, and they may eventually in that next Avengers. I'm assuming when he's going to finally be Hulk again and everything, which we are all assuming is going to happen. But yeah, Incredible Hulk ends up, Thaddeus Ross is chasing after him throughout the whole movie. He's got this one gung-ho soldier, Tim Roth, is in there, and he's injecting him with some of this like super soldier serum. It's not exactly the Captain America thing. Actually, it might be, only it's like a weaker dose or something like that.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember. He's injecting him with that, so he's trying to make him stronger. He's not as strong as Hulk though, and it's just so it's I don't know what they keep expecting when they keep fighting Hulk in this movie. Like, there's a point where he's injected with this super soldier serum and he's trying to take on Hulk and it's not working. Then he pulls out a fucking gun, which he knows he doesn't work. I don't understand this, man. I'm going to pull out a gun. I know it doesn't work, but it makes me feel good. I don't know.
So I pull out my gun.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's the same thing as Infinity War. Bucky strides up and just
yeah.
I'm like, oh, thanks for your contribution.
Or even Ragnarok, where he's got the AK-47s.
Yeah. Towards the end of Incredible Hulk, he does find Tim Blake Nelson, and lo and behold, you can't trust scientists in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
He's been replicating Banner's blood, and he's got all these. There's all sorts of uses we could have for this blood,
because he's still Tim Blake Nelson is still an "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?"
Yeah,
even though he's in this
pretty
movie.
much is. He pretty much is.
I love that guy.
Yeah, and so there's a point where Tim Roth, who is already injected with some of the super soldier stuff, he's like, "Go ahead and inject me with the Banner stuff and everything," and then he turns into Abomination. And we go same versus same again.
Yeah.
An Abomination is stronger than Hulk in this. He's kicking Hulk's ass for a little bit, and by the end of it, I think Hulk like ties chains around him or something. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't really, you don't think of Hulk as being wittier or anything than anything, but I think he ends up getting chains around him and nearly strangling him to death. And Betty's like, "No, you can't do that, Bruce." And he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I shouldn't do that."
Then he heads back down to Brazil.
Yeah, and then he goes back to somewhere.
He just goes on the run again, I think.
What a weird directing choice. This is Louis Leterrier?
Yeah, who did Transporter movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he did
what?
He did the Transporter.
And he did Now You See Me.
Oh.
So, I mean, it's just a weird. Maybe he's incredibly talented.
So he's worked with Ruffalo and Ed Norton. He's worked with both 2 of our 3 modern Hulks.
Yeah.
Has he done anything with Eric Bana?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Was he in Clash of the Titans? He actually may have been in Clash of the Titans.
I never saw that movie.
No, you're confusing him with Sam Worthington.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do that. I do that a lot.
Do that all the time.
Never been Hulk.
That's right. The curious moments I wrote down in Incredible Hulk was Bruce can't get too excited or else he'll turn into the Hulk, so he can't have sex.
Yeah, he can't even get a boner in this movie.
Yeah. So there's a point where Betty is like, "All right, we're doing this. We haven't seen each other in a long time." And he's got this little like wrist monitor thing that's like, his heart rate goes up. I'm like, that seems to be anti-Hulk to me when it's not anger that causes it.
Right.
And there's no reason to make it where being too excited makes him Hulk.
What would happen If he's having sex and he hulks out during sex.
Oh, man. I tell you what, Betty's vagina is dead.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What else would there be?
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be mush.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're talking about this.
Because
But if he hulked out while they're having intercourse, she's dead.
well, yeah, because in Ragnarok, we have established that his penis is enormous, like
Yeah,
relative to
that's right.
his body, right?
That's correct.
Wow.
Maybe her vagina is like his pants.
Yeah.
Never breaks.
Oh my God! Wow,
Jesus.
we went down a dark path.
Yes, it did.
You know what? I guarantee you people on the internet have already discussed this.
Yep.
We're not the first ones here.
All right, so Hulk can't have
This is
sex.
an okay, decent movie. It's not, it's never going to be anything that you will be like really want to go back to.
But it's also not bad. You're not gonna have
No,
a
it's
bad
not
time.
bad at all.
Yeah.
This was the first time also where it established that Banner could jump out of something, and he jumps out of a helicopter in this, just like in Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
And he crashes through the street in this. Obviously, they're not going for the joke that Ragnarok was and everything. But he's still Banner when he crashes into that thing. And it's been pretty consistent since this movie, saying that if Banner dies, Hulk can still emerge and everything. I don't know how that works. They haven't really ever been explicit about that, but they have said that. Because there's a point where in Ragnarok where he says, I would try to shoot myself. I'd try to, and the Hulk would always spit the bullet out.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's something in there where Hulk is sort of keeping him alive too. And,
Yeah.
but they've established that since that movie.
I'd like to point out, though, after Ragnarok and Infinity War, Banner is no fun without Hulk.
Banner is no fun without Hulk or Tony, because the difference between Avengers Banner versus Ragnarok.
Well, they've turned him into a cartoon.
Yeah, he's just this nervous, like nebbish little dude with
Yeah.
no intellect and nothing to add to the proceedings.
Infinity War plays him for the laugh in almost every scene he's in.
Yeah.
Even the final scene when finally gets in the Hulkbuster, he's all excited and then he fucking trips and the girl looks at him like, who's this loser? Like and Ragnarok is the same way. Like, I can't fly an alien spaceship. I need Hulk.
Yeah, and when he's on the trash plane, they're trying to get away. Like he's all just like nervous energy, basically. And you got to trust Ruffalo. Like I guess he's grown with this character. But I was watching the Avengers last night, and when they first see him on the holodeck or whatever it is, not the holodeck,
Those little hovercraft things.
yeah, the aircraft carrier that flies.
Yeah, the Avengers headquarters.
He's still got that nervous energy, and like he's uncomfortable being around people and everything until he really gels with Tony. But like it's a completely different character in the Avengers, and it was a lot cooler in the Avengers.
Yeah, they need to, especially if they're going to make intentional choices to keep the Hulk out of the story and Banner. Like you need to do Banner better.
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, my big fear with that character is that we're going to get Avengers 4, and the arc for him is going to be, he figured out how to get Hulk back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's all it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, why do we need to take this journey?
Yeah, those scenes, even in Incredible Hulk, but in Avengers 2, where he's like figuring shit out and he's really showing off like how fucking smart this guy is.
Right.
He's the only guy that can talk to Tony on Tony's level.
Yeah.
Well, and again, Infinity War, not that they shouldn't have, but they shut down his intellect by giving Shuri that one little biting line to show that she knows tech better than he does. But we kind of stripped away one of the things that made Banner cool was that he's supposed to be every bit as smart as Tony. They built Ultron together. It wasn't like a all Tony kind of. Anyway, sorry, that's a tangent.
Just imagine too. They had Banner, Tony, Peter Parker, Doctor Strange, and Shuri all in the same room.
No kidding. That's a lot of brain power.
Trying to figure out stuff like that. That's what I hope happens at some point. You get the brain trust in there.
That'd be awesome.
And they just, and you're right. The Banner in Infinity War is basically just going place to place saying Thanos is coming.
It alternates between that and who's that?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
I've been gone for a while. Laugh.
Yeah. The end credit scene here is Tony Stark visits General Ross in a bar and tells him about the Avengers. I think they go a little bit off continuity with this whole like everybody's creating the Avengers thing though, because I believe it's by Iron Man 2, which is the next movie, Fury is saying that he's not even in the Avengers yet. They still sort of trying out for it essentially or whatever. He's not even in it yet. So I don't know how Tony can just go to a bar and talk to the general and be all
well,
like,
and also the general wants to capture and or kill Hulk. Like, why didn't he go to a bar in Brazil and talk to Banner?
yeah.
Why is he going to talk to the general guy?
Yeah, and it's all, I know they're trying to get this continuity going on and everything where, like, you know, Avengers is coming and everything. That's one end credit scene that doesn't make much sense to me, but maybe if I don't know if I really thought about it, maybe it does. I don't know. Mention the Stan Lee cameo. He's the guy who drinks the soda. Then Iron Man 2 comes out.
God, I don't like this movie.
Yeah,
got to the bird. I got to the bird. It's
yeah.
bird.
Oh my God! Do they ever say bird? Like they say it at least 20 times in one scene. Yeah, Iron Man 2, one of my least favorite MCUs
For a host of reasons. It's got a little bit of that Spider-Man 3 problem where they threw too much in at once. They're giving you two villains with Rockwell and Mickey Rourke. They're giving you more War Machine. They're giving you Black Widow.
A different War Machine.
Well, yeah, they also recast War Machine. There's too much going on, and none of it really clicks.
Yeah, this one starts off with Tony needing to get a new source for his arc reactor because it's causing other problems. He's getting too much toxicity in his body at this point. So there's apparently some fabled element out there that his father found, but no one knows how to synthesize it yet. And so he keeps using this arc reactor to his own peril, essentially. But he needs it because he still has the shrapnel in his chest and everything. The story is a revenge story. This Ivan Vanko guy that Mickey Rourke plays, his dad worked with Tony Stark's dad, Howard Stark, and Howard Stark found out what Vanko's dad was up to and shipped him out of the country, essentially. And so they've been holding on to that for years and years and years and years. And finally, Vanko's father dies, and he's like, "I'm going to get Tony and everything." And this guy is every bit as smart as Tony too. He can build shit just from looking at blueprints and and he's really good with computers and all that.
Was this after The Wrestler?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Mickey Rourke is still in that shape though.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's carved up. He's swole in this movie.
Yes, he is. So he goes and he's gonna attack Tony. Tony's dying, so he doesn't really care what happened. He starts to not care what happens to him. That's why he enters that race and everything. Yeah. I believe we send this in the video, though, by the way. There's no way Vanko knows that he'll be at the race and in a car racing, because even his people didn't know he was going to
Rockwell,
do it.
Nobody knew about it.
Nobody knew that he was going to get in this car and everything. But yet, here's Vanko, secretly going into the pit crew and all this other type of stuff. And it's like...
getting his big whip ready.
Okay.
This is just, I think the whip hitting the cars and slicing them in... I think that there's some cool visual shit there. Mm-hmm. And I think they just kind of worked backwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Story-wise. And, that's why you don't do it that way.
Yeah.
This is Justin Theroux wrote this one.
Yeah, Justin Theroux wrote this.
Well, he was on something. He's usually a reliable writer.
Yeah.
He Vanko ends up getting sent to a prison, and then Rockwell, who's playing a rival Stark guy named Justin Hammer, breaks him out and tells him I want to build suits like Tony has. And is there any way that you can make these suits? And he's got these drone suits and everything. Mm-hmm. Is there any way that you can make it where this will fit over somebody's head and all that? So Vanko pretends like he's going to build whatever Hammer wants him to, but instead he's really just building something that he can get revenge on Tony with and everything. So he's playing him. And I never understood how Hammer even is wealthy in this movie. Everything he makes is terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a point where the government goes to Hammer and says, "Will you make me a whole bunch of stuff for this?" And it's Rhodey who's won a bunch of stuff in my War Machine suit and everything. And he's like, yeah. And there's like a whole thing where he's like, it's like a whole bunch of like fucking AKs and shit like that are on the plane. How you fit that on the suit? I don't know. Yeah. And then he introduces this little missile that I can't remember what he calls. He sniffs it like a cigar, and he's like saying this is the best thing that I ever had or whatever. Of course, later on, Rhodey actually tries to shoot it, and it just pops like a firecracker or whatever.
I get some of the scenes with Sam Rockwell and Guy Pearce from Iron Man 3 confused, because it's just like stock white dude villain character that has a lot of money, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this is, I don't really want to let the MCU off the hook on this particular issue. So even though Whiplash is different, this movie still has same versus same, because we get that army of drones versus War Machine and Tony. And so it's still basically Iron Man versus Iron Man.
Yep, it is. They end up at this the expo in Queens, and like Vanko turns on all the drones or whatever on the stage, and then they start attacking everything, and then it ends up being Iron Man and Rhodes like all surrounded by the robots or whatever, and there's that, they sit there forever, and then he does that thing where the laser shoots out and cuts all of them down, and they do that whole thing where like Rhodes is like, yeah, I guess you could have led with that or whatever. And it's like, well, that was a one-off. That was a one-time thing. And I was like, yeah, okay. And he hasn't used it since.
Also, there's the scene in here with the little kid in the Iron Man mask at the expo, outside the expo, and I'm pretty sure that they've declared that that's Tom Holland's Peter Parker.
Really?
In the MCU.
Interesting.
I'm reasonably sure that has been confirmed by somebody official.
Huh.
But even if it's not, that's kind of a fun theory.
Yeah, that is kind of fun.
It kind of works, too, because that Peter would be about that age at that point, and I like the idea that he was looking up to Iron Man even then.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of accidental kismet there that I think works.
Nice.
Yeah. This was the first time it's Natasha, right? Natasha Romanoff is introduced.
Mm-hmm.
She starts off as a sort of a spy for Tony.
Does she have an accent in this one?
Oh, jeez. I can't believe we did the whole mini-pod on Infinity War and I didn't bring up Scarlet Witch's accent disappearing.
No, not Scarlet Witch.
I know. I'm just saying. You bringing up the accent made me remember how Elizabeth Olsen sounds
fucking gone.
American as shit in that movie.
This whole Iron Man 2 thing is why the government even gets the suit in the first place. The beginning of this movie is him talking to Gary Shandling and being like, I'm not going to give you my suit. I'm not going to hand this over to you. This is my own property and everything. Of course, they consider it a equipment of war of some sort or whatever that no human person should be able to no human should have this by themselves and have all the power and everything. And then like he has a party because he's in this destructive phase where he's like getting super drunk and he thinks he's just going to die because there's nothing that's going to help him with his arc reactor thing. So he goes to the party dressed up as Iron Man, and he actually's drunk in the suit, and he starts shooting stuff, and people are in danger, and everybody at the party's like, ha ha ha, that's awesome. But Rhodes knows something's not quite right, so he goes down and steals fucking one of Tony's suits. And he becomes War Machine there, and like he flies off with Tony's shit, man. He's like, here, I'm going to take this shit, motherfucker.
Gone forever.
The part where Tony finds out, so like his dad left him this like 1960s film of some sort, and this is the first time we get John Slattery as Howard Stark. He leaves him this movie, and Tony's just watching it like, yeah, my dad, he didn't really care much for me, blah 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 blah. And then finally at the end of this one film, I don't even remember why he's watching. I don't even remember why he's watching that movie. But at the end of one of the movies, Howard's like, Tony, now that I got you alone, I can tell you something about this. He's building the expo, and there's a blueprint for this expo that's in there that he's got to go find. And of course, it just happens to be in his office at Stark Enterprises, whatever. And he's like, the secret to this new element is located somewhere inside. I will never understand how he figures this shit out. he gets the blueprint and he gets his computers. He gets Jarvis in on it and everything. And he's like, okay, I want to look at this, but without the pathways. Okay. Oh yeah, right here. And it's suddenly there's just like all this like fucking digital shit
He's
around.
got like a 3D map.
Yeah. And suddenly like it just spinning around him. And he's like, 20 years after your death, you're still taking me to school. And I'm like, what did you fucking do? I don't even understand. I can't understand it at all. And then Jarvis is like, there's no way you're going to be able to do this. Of course he does it first try. He shoots a laser into some fucking thing and he gets the thing that he needs to power the arc reactor.
The magic MacGuffin.
Yeah, exactly.
The new element.
Yes. So now he doesn't have this palladium poisoning or whatever. By Iron Man 3, they take the shrapnel out, so he doesn't actually need the reactor at all. But so anything else we want to talk about Iron Man 2?
No, I think we've spent
we probably spent too much time on it.
Yeah,
Iron
probably
Man 2.
did. End credit scene here is Agent Coulson goes to New Mexico where they find Mjolnir, which is Thor's hammer. And then what would be the Iron Man theme with Stan Lee cameos? Tony mistakes him for Larry King in this movie.
funny.
That brings us on to Thor.
Yep.
Kenneth Branagh. Friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
What a weird period.
Yes, it is.
I really liked this movie the first time I saw it. I don't know if it holds up real well.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's plenty entertaining.
You know what the problem is? Natalie fucking Portman in this movie. She is a brilliant astrophysicist that falls head over heels in love with
I
Thor.
would too, though.
Yeah, he's dreamy. Sure, he's fucking dreamy, but that is her only character trait moving forward in this whole movie. After she falls in love with Thor, she ceases to really smart anymore.
Yeah.
Like she's just kind of like, oh, okay, well, let's do whatever we need to get Thor.
Well, this is one of those characters that they just mismanaged to the point where, like, she's
gone.
only in the 2 Thor movies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's in Dark
And then
World,
she's
right?
casually mentioned in
Avengers.
Age of Ultron.
It's in Ragnarok they introduced. Well, they mentioned. I think they slightly mention her other stuff too. But in
They've got like a picture of her in Avengers.
Yeah,
and that's it.
in Ragnarok, that's like one of the people on the sidewalk is like one of the girls that want the picture with him is like, oh, I'm sorry about Jane dumping you, and he's like, oh, we both dumped each other. It was a mutual dumping. But yeah, you're right. All the intelligence that this character could bring to the entire world is really cut short.
Yeah.
Because in Thor, when he does crash land and everything, and S.H.I.E.L.D. gets wind of it and everything, they take her shit.
Yep.
And so like by the end of it though, she's like got all of her stuff back and everything, and then she's not helping out anymore.
Nope.
Yeah, and the MCU takes a little bit of criticism for, I guess, female characters and lack of female heroes.
That is a big theme that I saw throughout this whole thing.
It is, and to some degree, you have to blame the comics for some of that because the source material had way more male heroes than female heroes. But this is one of those characters that they did right. They cast a great actress. They wrote her well into the story of Thor 1, and then just somewhere along the line, she fell through the cracks.
Yeah.
And there was an opportunity there because she is a super smart badass who could have been in there in the room with Shuri and Bruce Banner and Tony.
Yeah.
It's almost like they rolled her character into Stellan Skarsgård going forward.
Yeah, they pretty much did.
He represents all. In matter of fact, in Avengers, they're like, oh well, he's my friend and he's a good man and everything.
Yeah.
But Natalie Portman's character is off.
Now, granted, there are probably real world issues here where she was doing another project and wasn't available to do as big a storyline as they wanted, maybe. I don't know. But this is where you had female characters. You didn't really do well with them for the first half of the MCU.
No.
Black Widow's completely mismanaged. Pepper Potts is completely damsel in distress.
Yeah, in all 3 of them. Well, until the very end of 3, I
the
guess.
third one, she's got some things going on for her, but
like a sports bra.
Yeah, sports bra. But this movie basically takes Thor out of it. That's the sort of the point of this movie. It starts off with him. He's about to be crowned king, and so something that Loki does. He allows these frost giants, who are essentially the fucking White Walkers.
Yep.
He allows these frost giants in, and he knows that Loki knows that just the mere hint that they could come into Asgard means that he may need to go beat some frost giant ass. Nobody knows that Loki is behind this, of course, until much later, but
which has an Infinity Stone been mentioned by name up until this point?
No. The first time we really hear of, I don't know when the first time they actually say stone is, but the first time we actually run into,
is it Guardians?
Well, Captain America has one of the stones, but I don't know if they refer to it by name in that. So Odin tells Thor, "You don't go and fight these guys. I forbid it." And Thor's like, "But I'm king," and he's like, "Not yet. You're not king
but you
yet.
aren't king.
Yeah, but you aren't king.
Not yet."
Yeah. And of course, Thor being Thor, he goes and fights them anyway. And he's doing okay. But he gets surrounded at some point, and then Odin comes down and basically saves them all or whatever. Loki kind of finds out his nature too when he goes there, because he's actually from Jotunheim, which is where this frost giant thing is.
Yeah, he's a little baby blue boy.
Yeah, he's a little baby blue boy. I don't know if I've ever quite understood. Odin adopts him. And he, I don't know if there's anything about the frost giants that say, oh, he also has the power of illusions.
Yep.
There's nothing in that frost giant race that I can see that anybody does that.
Dude, I don't get Loki's powers. Honestly.
No,
throughout the whole arc, throughout the whole MCU, like sometimes he's able to read minds, sometimes he's able to like use telekinesis. He's using these like,
well, it's not that different from Thor. Sometimes he can fly and bring lightning. Sometimes he needs the hammer. Sometimes he doesn't.
Yeah, that's
sometimes he's the most powerful being in the world and can take on Thanos.
Yes, and for all those people that are going to get, on the comments and say, well, it's clearly defined in the comics, we're talking about the movies.
I had to go through that reason in our mini pod thing too, because people were like, I need to show you this and that and whatever. I'm like, look. We don't have the time to get the basis of the original materials that a lot of people have that have been spending most of their lives reading comic books and everything. I don't think people who read comic books agree on what everything is going on either.
Right.
So
yeah, because there's different universes, there's different versions, and there's all kinds of stuff. We're basing on what they give us in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we could supplement that information, but still.
Although I had forgotten about the whole Odin adopting Loki thing. There's a lot of space adoption in the MCU.
Yes, there is.
Right? Like, is there any agency, you think?
And the
they just take him.
And the adopted person is always evil.
Yep. Evil.
But yeah, I don't understand. Like the Odin stumbles on this baby during the last big fight with the frost giants, and he decides, I'm going to take him in, and then the baby, who's just this blue frost giant thing, turns human.
Yeah.
And I guess he just has that power that it never really explains anything.
I wonder if Hela's alive when all this happens.
Yeah.
Well, she is.
Or not alive, but like not in prison.
I don't know. Really, honestly, in Ragnarok, it feels like they didn't even know.
Right. They just wrote her into the backstory.
They're like, man, Kate Blanchett is hot.
Yeah. But yeah, so he does this. Odin gets pissed. He sends Thor to Earth. Mm-hmm. And the weird thing for me in this, the sort of the plot order and everything. So Jane is going out to this desert point where she's noticing this anomaly or whatever. She's been doing this. She's done this about 17 times, I think, is something like that. She's gone out to the desert to try to figure out what's going on with this anomaly. And then finally, Thor shows up on one night when the anomaly happens. And I'm like, what was Thor showing up all those other anomalies too?
It was Heimdall it was Heimdall just setting up the Bifrost Bridge in case anybody wants to go there tonight.
All right. I guess nobody's going.
No, you're right. That's a very interesting weird thing.
I mean, your joke explanation actually sounds pretty good.
He's just greasing the wheels. He's trying to make sure that it's
He's
still
like,
okay.
make sure it works.
Test the Bifrost.
That's right. Because Heimdall is fucking thorough, man.
Yeah. Odin's like, Heimdall, did you check the Bifrost today?
Damn it! I can see trillions of people in the world. Do you want me to do this
I
now?
love Heimdall's look, by the way. I think like Idris Elba is just so commanding in that role.
Yeah.
And when he actually like takes out the sword to fight at the end, fucking awesome.
Yeah, he's a badass.
Yeah, he is.
But yeah, this whole thing is Thor trying to figure out what he ultimately, needs to do with himself. This is all about working on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of it, he says, "Spare my friend." When they send the big metal monster thing down to Earth,
Fireface.
yeah, exactly.
Fireface.
He's like, spare them, but kill me. And then it's when all of a sudden the hammer works again. And,
He got his hammer boner.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that doesn't Ragnarok kind of give the first Thor movie the middle finger when
Pretty
it comes
much.
to that hammer?
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Because the hammer doesn't even.
Because
Yeah.
Odin.
It was never the source of your power.
Yeah, Odin in the Harry Potter sequence is like, it was never the source of your power.
Yeah.
What are you, Thor, god of hammers? And and I'm like, doesn't the hammer let him fly and stuff? That's
Yep.
what I thought it did, but
And call down the lightning. He goes like this in the air with the hammer when
but
he wants to call down the lightning.
it's supposed to focus it. But that's one of those random things I think they write into movies where they're like, well, you don't need the fucking hammer. And then that didn't turn out to be anything at all, though.
Yeah.
Because he is able to call the lightning, but it doesn't do anything to Hela at all
Right.
in that. And then by the time Ragnarok ends and Infinity War starts, it's like, I gotta get something else. I
Yep.
gotta get
Do you know how to pronounce that? How to pronounce his hammer?
Mjolnir.
Mjolnir. Is how it
Yeah.
is. Huh?
No, it's Moliganor.
Kat Dennings all the way throughout it keeps calling it different things. Mew Mew.
Oh, really?
And
I forgot that.
whatever.
There's another wasted character.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no kidding. She's pretty.
Yeah, she is. But yeah, the big robot thing, the Destroyer.
Yeah.
It's Moliganor.
Moliganor. Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah.
Checks out. But yeah, Thor's all right. I didn't like it as much the second time, for sure.
By the end of it, Thor throws Loki, or I think he throws Loki off the Bifrost thing, and that's where Loki ends up for Avengers. That's where he ends up running into the Chitauri and all that bullshit. He seems, these like space-time continuum Einstein-Rosenbridge things really take people to convenient places, don't they?
Yeah,
They sure do.
where it's habitable and where.
It's like the further for space.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's another thing that the rules keep changing on too, because for several movies it has to be that bridge, and you have to have the Heimdall sword in the thing and the whatnot. And then by Ragnarok, Heimdall's just like, "Hey, mind hop over here. I'll show you what's going on
Yeah, exactly.
here in Asgard." And then by Infinity War, it's like Bifrost doesn't even have any connection to that bridge or
Right.
Asgard. Asgard is fucking gone, and we're still Bifrosting all over the place. What's powering that? What is the Bifrost?
I don't know.
It's basically a teleporter.
Mhm.
It's a Star Trek teleporter.
Yeah.
Transporter.
Yeah.
Basically.
Beam me down.
Yeah.
To Midgard.
Beam me up.
The end credit scene here is Nick Fury shows Eric Selvig, the Stellan Skarsgård character, shows him a case with his like electronic doodads and shit, and then Loki appears in a mirror, and Fury's like, "What do you think?" And Loki's like, "Well, now we'll have to take a look at that and see take a look." And Eric Selvig's like, I guess we'll have to take a look. And so we know that Loki has mind control powers now because he's got the Mind Stone, which
Yeah.
is in the Avengers.
Still, they only half knew what they were doing
Yeah.
at this point, because he does have the Mind Stone, but then the Tesseract is there, and that's another stone, but they don't ever tell us that that's a stone until later.
Yeah.
Because he does that thing where he hypnotizes people by tapping their chest. That's
Right.
got to be the Mind Stone doing the work.
And then the Tesseract actually opens the portals up and into.
That's what brings the Chitauri in?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, the Stan Lee cameo in Thor is that there's a point where Thor's hammer is just stuck in some mud or whatever, and everybody in town's trying to pick it up themselves, and nobody's good at it and everything. And Stan Lee is in a truck trying to pull it out with whatever. Then we have Captain America: The First Avenger.
I don't think we're going to make it all the way through these things, are
No,
we?
I don't think so.
We're going to have to do MCU parts 1 and 2.
We actually might.
I think the topic is worth that much discussion.
Sure, yeah, man.
Especially at this point in where the MCU, this feels like a good, let's stop and address the MCU up till now point. So even if it takes long.
Captain America, the First Avenger. This is about Steve Rogers. He's just a puny weakling, but he's got a lot of heart.
I don't like this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I like Captain America. I like him in every other movie. I like Winter Soldier, Civil War, whatever. But like this movie just loses me. I think it's the tone of it. Like it's a little darker than the tone is, like visually. And it just, I don't know. The villain is not all that great.
Yeah,
too,
and he's one of those like MCU boner villains too, Red Skull.
Yeah.
But
MCU boner villains.
That's right.
But yeah, he's a weakling and he wants to join the army. He keeps trying and failing. People are like, everything about your medical records and what you look like says, no, you can't be a soldier. Finally, he goes to the expo. Howard Stark is running the expo in Captain America. And Stanley Tucci's character, a German scientist who's been taken over to America and everything, notices this is a guy who's been trying this 5 times and he doesn't look like a soldier or anything. He sort of has this idea. Well, maybe this guy would be the perfect guy for the super soldier serum that I've been working on. So he does get into the army and he's in like Tommy Lee Jones's like group, whatever you want to call it.
He's the infantry, right?
I guess the infantry, yeah. And there's a point where he throws a fake grenade out and he's the only one who jumps on it and everything. And they find out this guy's got tremendous character and everything. And the reason why this Abraham Erskine guy says, let's try Steve Rogers is because apparently when you put the super soldier serum into somebody, it enhances everything. So if you've got any kind of evil in you, then it also exacerbates that.
What about penis size?
Yeah, I'm sure his penis is...
Man, after this movie and Wonder Woman, I'm shocked how many super soldier serums were going on back during World War II.
I know.
Yeah. Like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a crazy time for everybody.
What, I would like to analyze the chemical makeup, the compounds of the super soldier serum in this and the super soldier serum in Spider-Man with Willem Dafoe.
Oh, yeah.
The one that turns, because that seems to enhance everything, too. Strength.
Including evil.
And the evil.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you, seeing this recently, do the skinny Chris Evans effects hold up?
They didn't hold up.
It looks so odd.
It looks weird,
The problem is that we know what Chris Evans looks like.
Right.
So yes, it's just looks weird.
Yeah.
And you can't unsubconsciously take that out of your head what he looks like in real life. And so yeah, they've really punified
yeah
him.
he's
Man, if
super
he really
small.
cared, he would have lost all that weight just like Christian Bale did in
Right?
that one movie.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what Tom Hanks did for Castaway. Man, that took a 4-month break in filming just so that he could look different.
Yeah.
Chris Evans does not care about the craft.
He did not think that Captain America was going to be up for any Oscars, apparently, because that's how you get Oscar gold right there.
Yeah.
It's by losing all that shit.
You go full skinny.
But
That's right. You never go full skinny.
The reason why Erskine knows this about the serum, though, is that he was commissioned to do that with the Hugo Weaving character, what we later see as Red Skull, but Johann Schmidt is his name in that. He injected him with that early on, and yes, all the bad things happened too. And Johann Schmidt runs this other part of the Nazi party called Hydra. It's the scientific division or whatever, but he's the sort of the de facto leader of this. And at the very beginning, this is where he gets one of the stones, and I'm trying to remember which one this one is. Actually, it's the Tesseract in this one too.
Oh, okay.
It's the Space Stone.
Yeah, that's the Space Stone.
No, but I'm hoping that's what it actually is in the movie.
It is. It's the Tesseract.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I was going to interject at a better place, but I'll just do it now. I saw a thing about Hugo Weaving. Apparently, he was a little salty about this experience because I don't know how to say it without it being a spoiler for Infinity War.
Well, I mean, we're already. I think we're already
Red
at that.
Skull makes a brief appearance in Infinity War.
It's not him, is it?
No, it's not.
Oh.
And so that sent me down a rabbit hole of clicks to find a quote that he had given after the first Avenger came out. And he was like, yeah, basically he says, that was the thing I did. I don't think they'll ask me to do anymore. I don't think they'd put the character in a movie if the actor didn't want to do it anymore. Or something along those lines. I'm basically saying, I don't want to do it anymore, and I've told them that, so I don't think they're going to put him in the movies anymore.
He apparently was supposed to show up in like Winter Soldier or the Avengers or one of these. And they, I think it was the Avengers. And Joss Whedon was like, well, I don't know how we can put Red Skull in this too.
Yeah. Well, good.
Anyway, he gives them the super soldier serum, and Captain America is then relegated to doing USO shows, essentially.
Yeah.
He's trying to sell bonds. And like he finds out that his friend Bucky is missing in action, and against Tommy Lee Jones' orders, he decides to go find him. And that's where this whole thing, where he starts this whole thing with Hydra happens. He goes to their main headquarters, kicks a whole bunch of ass, takes some. Hydra had all these prisoners that end up joining Captain America. That team, by the way, completely worthless because they put some pretty good character actors in there, but like. The whole movie is like montage action scenes.
Yeah.
This is where Thing's excitement came up.
Yeah.
Because every time they showed Captain America, it was like going into this base, throwing shields, stuff explodes. And it's never like a whole, like, there's never a whole plan. Like, we got to do this, to do this, to do this.
Well, it may have been intentional. I don't enjoy it that way, but it's like a propaganda film for the war.
Yeah.
Like the way they're showing these montages of Captain America goes into this barn and wins.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happens. They are being shown as films throughout the movie.
Speaking of Bucky, so Sebastian Stan, this is one of his first film roles, I guess.
Oh, really?
Like it's around there. He was in Gossip Girl. And that's the only thing that I knew him from. And then you see him in this.
Girl.
Yeah, I know. I liked that.
Didn't that Blake Lively too? Yeah. Isn't that where she got it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm fucking old.
Although I think Blake Lively was in Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants before Gossip Girl.
Sebastian Stan. Oh, he had done a bunch of stuff before then. I'm sorry.
Nice job, liar.
Yeah, he had done The Architect, The Covenant, The Education of Charlie Banks, Rachel Getting Married. But it's fairly early, I guess.
Yeah,
that was certainly what made him a star. If he is a star.
Oh, he was in Black Swan. Strangely
honestly, do you think people know his name
now?
I mean, like regular people, not like MCU nerds or Comic-Con attendees.
Not. I wouldn't think so. You don't hear his name get rattled off.
No, but people would probably know he's Bucky.
Yes, everybody knows fucking Bucky.
But even like Falcon, like my buddy was watching one of these movies and he was like, "What's that guy's name?" Like, Anthony
Papa
Mackie.
Doc.
Yeah, Papa Doc. I was like, man, he's a really good actor. You should watch The Hurt Locker and stuff like.
Yeah.
His name is not. Some of these people are in all these movies and their name is not famous. That's weird to me. Sorry. Tangent of all tangents. You might as well make my middle name Tangent.
Do you like this movie?
No.
The first Avenger?
No.
What is it for the reason that you were just saying, like the propaganda and the. It's anodyne, especially
honestly,
for a Marvel movie.
I'm going to probably make enemies here. One of the reasons I don't connect to this movie is that it's set so far back in the past that if there had been a superhero running around in World War II, people in the present should know about it.
Yeah.
And they don't. Like everyday American citizens should in the 90s in the MCU should fucking know about Captain America kicking ass in the 40s.
That's true.
But they don't.
Yeah.
What now?
No, never mind. I'm trying to explain why I don't connect to the movie.
Because they don't have...
And it's because they went back in the past, and I don't connect to that.
Yeah.
Just like when they go out in space, like maybe I was thinking about this last night, but part of what the disconnect for me with Infinity War might be is that 75-80% of that movie is in space.
That's true. That's true.
Once you go into space, and I've said this before, we're dealing with aliens and gods and more murkiness as far as what they can and can't do. I lose a little bit of connectivity to that. So.
I got you.
Yeah, so I'm just made sure that everything. So it is the Space Stone in this.
In the Tesseract.
That's what Hydra is using to make all these weapons and stuff.
Okay.
So like the problem with the montage scenes and these battles and everything is that these guys have fucking super advanced weapons, and and like Captain America and a handful of dudes goes in and like kills everybody and nobody dies and like these are like super advanced fucking weapons. They're like shooting fucking like amazing like lasers and shit at them and stuff. Doesn't matter, man. And of course somebody brought this up on Twitter. I think there's always like something where like they find the big thing that's going to be. This time he finds the shield. He finds the shield, obviously, in the first one. Howard Stark is working on it. It's a prototype, though. It's a prototype. And, of course, it works perfectly.
Yep.
But
also, how's it a prototype if you don't have, like, because Howard Stark doesn't have, like, a bunch of vibranium sitting around, does he?
No.
Right. So why did you even prototype if the metal is that precious?
Yeah, I know.
Measure twice, make it once.
Right.
Don't prototype that shit.
Exactly. So in this movie, I don't really understand this whole thing. Hydra like does this whole thing. You cut one head off to come back or whatever. I don't know where Johann Schmidt's getting all these fucking soldiers. There's not anything in here that says he's working on, fucking real Hydra technology where like two people arise from one dead person or whatever. Like there's a point where after Captain America has blown up like 50 bases or whatever the hell it is in this thing. And like, the Red Skull guy is like, he's like, you'll cut one head off, two come back in its place. And there's like a big, huge pan shot of like this fucking never ending field of soldiers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Jesus, not everybody was Hydra. There was still some Nazis left, right?
This was directed by Joe Johnston.
Yeah. Rocketeer.
Rocketeer, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, The Page
Actually,
Master.
Rocketeer makes him the perfect choice for this.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Yeah.
that's the same
Yeah.
kind of feel and era and tone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I guess he gave them exactly what they wanted. It's just I didn't want it.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, so by the end of that, this is almost a same versus same battle because they both have super serum in them and everything. They're fighting on a ship, and like we said, he touches that space stone. He ends up getting shot into space, and we don't see him again for a very long time.
That's right.
And we also can blame this movie for the Bucky syndrome.
Yeah.
Because Bucky becomes very important
Yeah,
later
this
on in
is,
the MCU.
Yeah, he casually gets thrown off of a train, and somehow, some way, motherfucking Zola.
Yeah.
You remember that dude we casually threw off? He might be great for this. Let's get an expedition to go and find that motherfucker in the snow. The end credit scene for Captain America: First Avenger is a trailer for the Avengers.
Ah.
Oh. I guess
yeah.
I didn't remember that.
It's
That's
a teaser
literally.
yeah, it's a literal teaser trailer.
So that's the only one where they didn't actually do like a scene then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weird. I bet you if they had it to do over again, they would have done like a regular stinger.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think the Avengers, the prospect of an Avengers movie at that point was so strong that putting a teaser trailer like that on Captain America, which they're not quite sure is going to be a big hit or whatever, it's kind of a good tease
Yeah, no, I get it.
to come in.
And it was less than a year later, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
less than a year later. But although, of course, that's always can't do that like you used to back in the day. I remember when that movie Wing Commander.
Wow.
Is that the one with
Yes, it is.
Freddie Prinze Jr.?
Yes, Matthew Lillard.
I saw this movie in the theater. Oh,
They
Jesus.
did that with Wing Commander, where they put the trailer for Phantom Menace on it, and
On the end of it.
Oh no, on the beginning it was attached, and they felt like, oh, people will come out and see this because of the trailer. Of course, people actually bought tickets to fucking Wing Commander
and then bailed.
and bailed. But it didn't happen often. Like Wing Commander wasn't some hit.
Yeah.
Let's be very clear. That movie did shit. But yeah, nowadays the trailer is going to be online immediately anyway. So there's really no draw to going to see a movie, for a trailer. The Stan Lee cameo, he's at the USO. She's at a USO show, and he's a guy who says, "I thought he would be taller" when he sees Captain America.
Okay.
Then that brings us to the Avengers. It's been leading up to this.
This is one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite MCU movie.
Yeah,
It's great.
It's so great.
I mean, I struggle to get through that first hour when I'm rewatching it, but that second hour is just
See, I love that first hour. I think everything about that is so much fun. It's all these introductions, and especially when they finally get together and they start that banter and you can hear the Whedon dialogue going back and forth. Like, man, I'm down with that. I agree the second hour is even better, but I just watched it last night because I remember not liking it as much either. I still dig it.
I mean, I get that. I'm just an old crank. Just get off my lawn. I don't know. It doesn't ring genuine to me, that whole fight in the woods where all of our heroes are trying to like outpiss each other, and I don't know.
Oh, you mean when Thor and Iron Man? That makes sense to me though, because he takes Loki out of the plane. He's like, he doesn't know who the fuck these people are, and he's like, all right, well, I'm taking it, and Tony has to go after him because I got to get my shit back. I got to get my prisoner back.
I know.
And then the whole fight where Loki essentially gives up at the outside the opera house in Germany, like that's a cool introduction to Captain America and Tony and all that stuff. Like, I don't know. I love it.
This is where Loki gets 2 stones at this point. He's got the Tesseract, which I think allows him to touch it. And he has the Mind Stone in the scepter. He now can control minds, and he controls Eric Selvig's mind, and he controls Hawkeye's mind. We don't even know who the fuck Hawkeye is at this point. We saw him in Thor briefly and everything, and now he's already a bad guy.
What was
Mind
he? Oh, did he
control.
come? He came out to the town in Thor, right?
No, he was... Well, yeah, but when S.H.I.E.L.D. builds the little facility around the hammer and Thor comes to try to get it, there's a whole thing where, like, Hawkeye, you see this guy or whatever, and, like, Thor starts fighting one of the guards or whatever. And then there's that, like, Hawkeye moment where he's like, I don't know if I want to kill this guy. I'm beginning to like him or something like, yeah, okay, whatever. You know? Yeah, this is the beginning of a lot of just, like, you know, just throwing a lot of information at you at once, and they do it pretty well. But all Loki wants to do is he wants to open up a portal and send the Chitauri where he's gotten this scepter from and everything, and come down and invade Earth and everything.
What's the point though? Like, what's his motivation? For that?
I'm trying to.
They want a war because I guess they're a warmongering.
No, that's right.
civilization.
Yeah,
and he wants to destroy Earth. Because Thor has been protecting it for all this time. So that's most of his motivation.
So he's an Earth hater.
Yes, he's an Earth hater. In fact, he has the conversation with the Chitauri guy up on the planet where he's like, you can have your war. I just want my brother to lose whatever, you know? And so, yeah, it's not fully fleshed out, but you get so many great moments in this movie. You get the puny god thing. You've got the... what are the other moments? You got the shawarma moment. You've got the
moment that always stuck out to me more than any other is that moment. I think they're on a bridge where Tony and Cap are fighting kind of like side by side, and then Cap turns and presents his shield, and Tony fires his lasers into the shield, and they bounce. And that always felt like organic cooperation realization. Yeah. Like we are more than just our individual selves if we work together. And so that's my single favorite movie. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about
everybody. Well, this is what the problem is with like Age of Ultron and Civil War and stuff like that, where they're not dependent on each other. They're just doing their own
baseball
shit.
Card hero shots.
But here, everybody makes sense except for fucking Black Widow. But like everybody else makes sense. Like when in New York, where Captain America is like directing, okay, you guys go up on the roof because that's your ability. Tony, you're going to go down here and establish a perimeter because that's your ability, and all that stuff. Like it all makes fucking sense, and that's why I love this movie.
Yeah, and then we get that iconic "I'm always angry" moment where he not only says a great line but turns and immediately punches the shit out of the nose of that ship. All the Hulk action is fantastic and just joyous. There's a celebratory nature to the action in this last hour.
Yeah.
That I think The Dark Knight never comes close to anything like that. There's no joy in The Dark Knight's action.
Yeah.
I love the Avengers. Again, it would be just because we've very recently had a couple of good MCU movies, it's kind of shaken up my whole ranking system. But prior to Black Panther, I would always say Iron Man and Avengers were my 2 favorite MCU movies.
Speaking of Dark Knight, Loki has a Dark Knight Joker type of ploy.
Yeah.
He gets caught
On purpose?
and he gets thrown into a cell that's meant for the Hulk. and he starts playing some mind games, hoping that the Hulk will emerge and that that they'll start infighting and everything. And it's funny, we in our Sins video for Age of Ultron, there's that whole thing where they're trying to pick up the hammer and everything.
Yeah.
And there's the one tease moment where like Banner goes up and he's like, oh, like that. And we're like, and everybody's like, oh, come on. We got to see the Hulk do it and everything. Hulk does try to pick up Thor's hammer in the Avengers.
Yeah.
There's a scene where Thor is fighting him. And there's a point where the hammer just falls to the floor or whatever, and Hulk's like tries to grab it and he can't. And then and there's like that big fight between them. So we've seen a Thor Hulk fight before and everything, and it's on that Avenger ship. That's during a whole bunch of stuff. Tony's got to go repair an engine on the ship. He's got to use
Cap's got to fight off the people that are invading.
Yeah. A lot of good stuff in this.
I loved, and we were just talking about this. The banter between Banner and Stark starts right here, and like I think when they first meet, Tony's like, "Man, I read your treatise on whatever, your paper on this." And then they start talking this techno gobbledygook, and it's like, oh, that's awesome. They're gonna get on. And he starts like jabbing him a little bit and like needling him to try to get the Hulk out.
Yeah,
so great.
There's a point here too that would be nice to revisit at some point. There's also a point where Thor's Thor's lightning charges up Tony's suit, and it says 400% capacity. and I sort of wish that's something they did more of, or whatever. Yeah. Maybe that's just a fluke, and he can't really do that over and over again.
And he blasts the shit out of
Thor.
he
does. He does.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh yeah. The curious moment I wrote for Avengers is that the Chitauri are never really developed at all. We don't, and we mentioned it. I mentioned it before that we don't know how Loki got into Thanos' good graces to be handed this scepter.
Mm-hmm.
Like Thanos is, I don't even know if they know what Thanos is at this point, because he's handing out fucking Infinity Stones. He's getting other people. I mean, yeah, there's a point where there's an end credit scene where he's like, I guess I'll do this myself.
Yeah.
But he's getting all these people to do.
He's not doing anything.
Yeah.
No, he's sitting up in his fucking space chair.
Yeah.
Although I think Infinity War would have you believe he's bouncing around from world to world, like genociding half the citizens.
I guess so.
And doing it with Gamora.
And we just see him in the middle of all that.
I guess every time he destroys half of life on a planet, he has to go back to the throne room to relax. He's got to recharge his batteries, mentally and physically.
That's right.
There's two end credit scenes in the Avengers. One is the introduction of Thanos. And then the shawarma scene is at the very, very end of
which almost didn't happen. They were at the, what were they doing? They were all together for something. It wasn't a premiere, but it was something. And Whedon just had this idea.
Yeah.
And so he got all the actors in costume and shot this stinger thing but that they had already wrapped the movie.
Oh yeah, because Chris Evans had a beard, and that's why he's got his hand covering up the thing. Yeah. But it's so great. And seeing this again, it goes on for like 30 seconds more than you think it's going to go.
Yeah,
it's not just like, a kind of little snippet of them doing it. And like the woman in the back is like sweeping up and everything.
It's a great scene. It's probably my favorite MCU end credit scene in terms of entertaining me.
Yeah.
And it's not, granted, they do have another one that teases Thanos, but it's not trying to tease a future movie. It's not a trailer for a future film. It's actually connected to all the action I just saw.
I think that's why I like this movie so much, is that it's having fun and it's not afraid. Like you said, there's joy in that. It's not in The Dark Knight, because The Dark Knight is a whole different animal. But this one is just like, man, we got a bunch of really cool characters together, and we're pulling this shit off.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of my favorite things that Joss Whedon has done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big Buffy fan, but like, he really got a hold of everything.
Well, and just contrast the way the MCU handles all these characters in the action scenes here or in Infinity War, and there's joy throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you look at something like Justice League, and the best you get is my man.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's just the MCU is doing so much right.
Yeah, and that's why Wonder Woman was so good, is because she was having fun through a lot of it too,
and the film is having fun, and Chris Pine is
awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, we be more like the MCU, DC. Just get off your high horse.
I know. I think they're trying to be the anti-MCU.
They are. Well,
and
they're trying to be the Pepsi or the Coke or whatever. We've got to be just different enough.
Right.
But people like a little fun. Bring a
Turns
little
out
fun.
people want to have fun in superhero movies.
It's weird. The Stan Lee cameo is that after the invasion of New York and everything, there's a bunch of news clips, and all these things are going by, and one of them is this old guy at Washington Square playing chess, and he's like, "Superheroes in New York, forget about it," or whatever.
Also, you get the cameo from the little girl from Growing Pains.
Oh yeah, is it Michelle Johnson?
Something Johnson.
Ashley Johnson.
Ashley Johnson. Because she looks so much like Dakota Johnson that when 50 Shades was becoming a thing, I thought for like half a minute it was the same girl, and she had parlayed her Avengers cameo into the leading role in a trilogy. She hadn't.
Yeah.
Hold on. So what is her cameo in Avengers?
She's at a restaurant and she like runs out and says something like, yeah. But it's just that
she's the little girl in Growing Pains?
Yeah, the youngest daughter.
I didn't realize that.
I don't know how that all came to be.
Interesting.
Maybe Joss Whedon was just like a closet Growing Pains nut and was like, I've got to. Maybe if we look back, every single Joss Whedon movie has a cameo from, like, Boner is somewhere in Cowboys, or not Cowboys and Alien. He's somewhere. He's somewhere in Buffy.
Yeah.
The
Who was your father? Sylvester Stallone. I love Boner.
Oh my God. All right.
Okay, so this ends phase 1. We go into phase 2.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to ask, are we at a place on time where we maybe want to just wrap up this episode after phase 1 and do some questions?
We could do it.
Because I don't think we're going to get through phase 2 time-wise.
No.
And I wonder if that's just a natural starting spot.
Okay, so why don't we just cut this into 3 phases then?
Cool.
So we'll just keep doing this until
the MCU fans will eat it up.
And this is fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
And with the questions and everything, we can do something other than Marvel if people don't want to hear the Marvel stuff.
And we get to it gives me more time to watch a couple more of these for the next discussion.
Yeah. Good deal.
Because I really if I'm going to be a decent human being, I need to watch Winter Soldier and Civil War again before I discuss them. Because I only saw them. I only saw them the one time and then the Sins writing, and they need at least one more shake.
By the way, one thing that I do want to talk about before we get into questions, and this doesn't have to be a long conversation. We can get into it deeper in the next one, but a lot of the criticism that we heap on these movies is not knowing what people can do, like the powers and everything. It seems to change movie to movie. Iron Man especially changes a bunch because Tony is constantly adding things to the suit and making new suits. The Thor powers, I think, have been fairly consistent through this first couple of phases. He's got a variety of attacks that he uses. One is the thing where he hits the hammer on the ground and it causes the big fucking shock wave and everything. He's used that several other times in the movie. I know that when I saw it in the first Thor, I was like, I don't remember him doing this other times, but he does. He does it several other times. And apparently the hammer can let him fly, but then Ragnarok kind of like starts muddying the issue with him and everything. It's hard to figure out exactly what's going on with Thor. But up until that point, it's been pretty consistent with him. But we don't know, my main contention is we don't know what can do what damage to another person.
Right.
It's not that they don't show us what they can do or what they're capable of, but it doesn't show us like in Infinity War, like when Thanos shoots that thing at Tony and Tony throws that shield out and it stops it.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, we were talking earlier. I was thinking, okay, so Thor powered up at the end of Ragnarok, but like you said, couldn't defeat Hela.
Yeah.
So Hela is stronger than Thor. But then that giant fire skull dragon guy is stronger than Hela. That's why they have to bring about Ragnarok. But let's say Hela and that guy, Surtur, are fighting Thanos.
But Surtur, though, had to be at the Eternal Flame to get his power to beat Hela.
But once they put his crown in the Eternal Flame, he's more powerful than Hela.
Yes, at that
he
point.
grows super big and destroys all of Asgard.
Well, then
including
the
Hel.
question is he really truly powerful than her? Because he ends up just taking a big, huge fucking building and slamming it on her. It's not. It's not really like one-on-one type of thing.
But that's what we don't have here is what a video game would give you, which is the stats.
Yeah.
Right? You see the NFL players get all bent out of shape if the new Madden comes out and their stats aren't good enough. Like, I'm faster than a 90 in speed. And if you've ever played any of these games, they go deep on stats. Deep. Like dozens and dozens of different things that ultimately create this player's total ability. And we don't have any of that for these guys. So we don't know whose magic axe is stronger than whose magic hammer if they were both made by the giant dwarf.
Yeah, exactly. And so like you have all these different things that keep coming up, you know, like Thor hitting Cap's shield and like, you know, causing the big, you know, he causes the big shockwave with that too. But why doesn't the hammer destroy his shield? Or why, you know, like why does it get sustained? There's parts in some other movies where Captain America's throwing his shield and it bounces back to him, but then there's other times where it just lodges into whatever it's going into. So how does he decide what kind of thrust is he throwing on those things where it's like, I want this to just slam into something, and then, oh, well, I'll throw it a little bit different this time where it bounces off of something.
Well, and see, I think this is one of the areas where the MCU caters to hardcore comic fans in great ways. And because I'm not one of them, I ask a lot of questions like this. And I think we even did a sin for Winter Soldier about the fucking boomerang of his shield. Because there's one scene where it like bounces off 6 different things and comes back to him. But somebody said to me in the comics, if you look closely at one scene, there's a thing on his wrist, and the comics talk about blah, 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 and he can call it back to him by triggering this thing on his wrist or not if he doesn't want to. And I'm like, okay, the movie does not explain that.
Right.
And if you know it because you know the comic, it's the same thing with Tony's armor in Infinity War. He just says one throwaway line to Banner, nanotech, and we just believe it. But the comics have better explained exactly what's going on with that nanotech, and the movies just kind of expect us to just go with it. Because I kind of miss that first Iron Man where we see him building the suits and tinkering with the suits, and I've got to add this ability to the suit.
Yeah, he's got to have like the stabilizers.
2 more
and
movies, and it's just a new suit every time, new abilities every time. We're not going to stop to explain it. You just have to accept that Tony is smart, and every time you see Tony, he's going to have an upgraded suit. To the point where in Infinity War, he's got fucking Harrier jet engine things that pop out behind him and shoot missiles or shockwaves or something. And I'm like, it looks cool. Yeah. I would like to understand it just a little bit more. Just a tiny.
Yeah. And it would, and a lot of times the rebuttal to that is, oh, well, then the movies would be 3 hours long. But no, all you'd have to do is for like a minute. Just, you know.
We're about to get into this with The Last Jedi, but The Last Jedi moves from like a B- to an A- for me. If there's one scene where Luke to Rey or Yoda to Luke says, the Force is changing and getting more stronger or something.
Yeah.
Or the Force has always been able to do things you didn't understand. Because a lot of my beef with that movie is just magic shit happening that we never knew was possible. And Rian Johnson's defense is, hey, it was there. It was possible. You just didn't know it. Just tell me. Just give me one line of dialogue that says there are possibilities with the Force you never imagined. Then Space Leia makes sense.
Luke kind of says that to Rey, though. It's like the Force doesn't belong to the Jedi. It's everywhere and that kind of thing. That's why we need the Jedi to die, is because we need to better understand it. So I think that the
movie could be a little bit more explicit. God damn it!
That's true.
Just tell me Jedi can do things you never knew.
I got some
or
issues with that
non-Jedi
movie
people
now,
can
too,
fucking space float.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I obviously have issues.
Yes. Although, okay, so we'll obviously get more into powers and stuff like that, but I think for the most part they tell us what they can do, just not the effect of them on others that are strong and everything. And I did get into not an argument, but a sort of a friendly back and forth about this on Facebook, and the explanations I was hearing, I was like, yeah, those are reasonable explanations, but they're not in the movie.
Yeah.
They're gap fillers, just like this whole thing with the shield that you're talking about. Like, there's never been one spot where it says, well, he can call it back with this little thing. That just takes 2 seconds to say.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's where we're coming from. And so when we see these big battles, we want to have this like, yeah, okay, he can do this, he can do this, he can do this. if this happens, we know that he might die from it, that type of thing. And we don't.
It's more about the relativity for me. It's just because I think everybody's powers have been well defined in their own lane, but it's comparatively to the others, both heroes and villains. Who's stronger, Tony or Cap? Spider-Man stronger than all of them? Hulk stronger than all of them?
Yeah.
I don't know, because at times throughout the MCU, they all punch each other.
Yes, they do. Yep. I think everybody's punched everybody at this.
I think
some
so.
point.
Yeah.
So that'll do it for phase 1. We are going to break this into because we talk a lot.
Yes, we do.
we make these things like, all right, well, surely. See, when I introduced this, I didn't think there was any fucking chance we could get this done in 2 hours. And I was like, well, maybe, but you have to go into a lot of stuff and everything. You're basically reviewing all the movies again. So anyway, we're going to do phase 2 next time.
Yeah,
and then we'll do phase 3 after that.
Actually,
we'll
the
get
one
back to the
after
road trip.
that will be a very special episode.
Oh, yeah, that's
excited about
right.
that.
We do have a special episode. I guess can we go ahead and say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to be on not only the Maltons podcast, but they're going to be on our podcast.
We're going to have the return of Jessie Malton, and her dad is this guy named Leonard Malton.
What?
Yeah, I think some people. I think he used to be famous.
He used. It's going to be awesome. They're going to be in town for a festival, and we're going to chat with the Maltons. And
we're going to swap shows. At least that's the plan.
Yeah, so we'll be on Malton on Movies.
We're going to be show swingers.
Yeah, that's right. And then they will be on our show.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's great because it's coinciding with the Nashville Film Festival. So there's a lot of cool things we'll be able to talk to them about. But exciting stuff. And then we'll do phase 3.
Yes.
And then we'll go to Maine.
Yeah, exactly.
Get back to the road
There'll
trip.
be a road trip at some point, and you know what? There might even be a mailbag episode.
That's
mixed
right.
in there
We've
too.
got big plans for the SinCast.
So this road trip is on hold for now, but we've got a lot of other cool stuff that we're going to talk about.
That's right.
So we will get back to it. All right. Well, time to talk about some Mubi.
Oh man, I love it.
Yeah, man. Saw a new one this past week. It's from Japan.
Ooh. Do they make French cinema in Japan?
They do. They have the internet on computers now. I watched a movie called Still Walking, and it is an intimate family drama. It's basically, there's not much plot to it at all, but it's these people are coming over to their parents' house. These like 30-something-year-old people or whatever, going over to their parents' house, and you're not quite sure what the whole deal is and everything, but then you kind of find out that the brother and sister, their brother died some years ago, and that somewhat affected them over the years and everything. And the father is disappointed in the remaining son because he didn't follow in the family business and all that other type of stuff. And so there's a lot of it's just a lot of conversation. It's kind of like almost an Altman movie, except without a lot of camera movement or like overlapping dialogue or anything like that. It's just usually camera stationary, and it's people talking about, and there's so much food ties into this so much. I love these type of movies, man, where they're like, people are always preparing something and then they're eating it and they're talking about it and all that. And you're like, I wish I could have some of that stuff. I wish I could be a part of this family. And, and so it's stuff like that. But yeah, it starts very slowly kind of getting to the truth of it all and everything, and why they've come here and why everybody's sort of got this kind of like, I just don't want to be here and don't want to do this, and I'm depressed and I'm all this type of stuff, and really well done. Well done. So,
well, speaking of Japan, they have a Kurosawa movie on there right now.
They have Ron on
Ron.
there. Yeah.
Have you seen Ron?
Yeah. This was he came out with that in the 80s.
Right. Yeah.
And I did not see it on Mubi. I've seen it at our local Belcourt, but yeah, that's another one that you don't really think about with Akira Kurosawa a lot of times. You think about a lot of the samurai pictures, and this is still kind of a samurai picture. I think.
It's apparently something like a King Lear adaptation.
Right.
I can't wait to watch it. I did see, they've started this collaboration. Mubi has started this collaboration with Nicholas Winding Refn And that is the
That's
correct
how you
way to say his name,
Really?
by the way.
See,
Yeah.
now, I would have never guessed Refn was right.
Yeah,
That's how an American would pronounce that name. It seems like that would be like Ren or Rayun or something like that. The F has got to be silent, right?
Yeah,
There's no name.
It's got to be a J.
Yeah.
But he did, Drive. He did Neon Demon, Only God Forgives, Bronson. You like Neon Demon, right?
Yeah. No, well.
The guy's unlike anybody else.
It's an interesting movie.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I hate it.
All of them are interesting. I mean, Drive is a weird movie.
He also did that one, Valhalla Rising,
Right.
too.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a really interesting filmmaker, and Drive is probably the closest to mainstream he's ever made.
Yeah.
I think. I don't think there's anything closer.
Probably
to that.
not. But he's such an interesting. So he's curating movies on his own, and so Mubi has set up like a collaboration where he's looking into cult stuff. He's looking into cult movies, not cult.
Yeah.
The actual cult.
Right.
But yeah, so I watched a movie that he had recommended called Shanty Tramp, which is a bonkers movie from the 60s. It's about this in the southern town. There's like a snake oil tent revival preacher that rolls into town. And, there's a lot of revival scenes in there, and he's getting all worked up. It's a great performance. And this girl, it's almost like a Black Snake Moan type of thing. She just has to have it.
Oh, yeah.
And so she tries to hook up with the preacher, and he's going to get with her later on. But in the meantime, she hooks up with this black guy in this town where it's still, very much frowned upon. Hooks up with somebody else. It's just this weird thing, and then the town dynamics come together after they discover that she slept with this black guy, and it's insane. It's got that 60s scene, in 60s movies where a lot of them will like take a scene and show a bunch of people dancing at a club and just doing these weird dances. It's got one of those scenes, but it was one that he recommended. It's so good, and it's again nothing that I would find in my everyday life that would be recommended to me, but if it weren't for Nicholas Winding Refn and Mubi.
Right, exactly. It's easy when you come up with, you try to look for best movies of all time, you're going to get the same list over and over and over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone's going to say Citizen Kane, Casablanca, or Godfather.
Yeah.
And then after that, you got a whole, litany of other things that
Infinity War.
Right, Infinity War, for sure. For sure. Recently added to the AFI list. But with Mubi, you're getting a wider range of stuff from other countries, from other eras, and everything that, you would never, if you typed something into Google, looking for best movies I haven't seen, it's always going to be that same list. Mubi doesn't give you that same list.
I know. It's beautiful, man. And if you go to Mubi.com/Cinemasins, you get 30 days free to try out this service.
That's nothing to sneeze at.
No, man. You're gonna get quality cinematic recommendations and go on this journey for 30 days for no money.
Yeah, and over that 30 days, that will give you access to up to 60 different films that are handpicked by the crew at Mubi. We love this service. There's a reason we keep talking about it, and we hope you guys will check it out. We think you'll like it too.
It's awesome. It's Mubi.com/Cinemasins. So MUBI.com/Cinemasins, 30 days free, only if you go to that URL. So go straight to that and try it out. I really can't recommend this enough.
Well, and here's another thing, as sort of a postscript to this ad. After having watched Infinity War twice in a row, and those were the last two viewings of movies that I had seen, was Infinity War, going to watch something as quiet and as straightforward as Still Walking was a refreshing change of pace.
So you're saying nobody in that movie grabs a moon and flings it down on top of a bad guy?
And Lord knows they did. They don't even try to do it.
Those bastards.
Let's do some questions.
You want to do a couple of questions? A couple few?
Stick your A's in my queue.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
So we've got an international question pool this week. Hey guys, I live in Vancouver, BC. Listen to every one of your podcasts.
That's not international.
What are you talking about?
Vancouver, Canada's America's hat. I'm just kidding. I'm making a Canada is America joke. You said international. The first place you went was Vancouver.
That's right, Vancouver.
The stand-in city for all filming.
Well, that's what this has to do with, actually. Love what you do. There are times of the year where you don't go a day without seeing a couple film crews here in Vancouver. That being said, what are some of your favorite Canadian movies or movies filmed in Canada? This is very interesting to me because I'm like, oh, there's got to be a million. I haven't seen a whole lot of Canadian movies that are set in Canada that are like Canada-centric, and it was shocking to me.
Yeah. The first thing that came to mind was Strange Brew, which is, as I understand it, growing up in northern Indiana, that is a super Canadian movie and well representative of the Canadian humor. There was another show that somebody I knew used to watch because they loved Canadian humor. Red Green?
It wasn't SCTV, right?
No, it was like it was this dude. It was the Red Green show. Somebody who's Canadian, tell me what I'm talking about out there. Anyway, I never really liked Strange Brew because it just seemed to be making fun of the way they talked.
Yeah,
more than anything. So I actually wrote down for my favorite Canada movies the Score and The Whole Nine Yards. But both of those movies feel like they could be in America.
Yeah,
they just happen to be in Canada.
I had no idea that they were in Canada.
Yeah, The Score is in. I'm going to screw it up. The Score is in Montreal?
I think you said Whole Nine Yards is in Montreal.
Maybe they're both Montreal. Because I'm pretty sure wherever De Niro lives in The Score is in the French-Canadian portion of Canada. And I think Montreal is...
Yeah, it's Montreal.
Yeah. So again, I've talked about both of these movies before. The Score is really, really fun.
I got to see that.
For you guys, especially you, because you always talk about how much you like heist movies and capers. And this is just a good one. And you got three powerhouse actors with De Niro, Brando, and Ed Norton, and Angela Bassett. It's good shit.
Yeah.
And then Whole Nine Yards is just fun. It's so fun that I can actually watch the second one, the whole 10 yards, because of how much I enjoy the first one.
That's a surprisingly fun movie, isn't it?
The second one?
No, I guess both of them, but the first one in particular, because it just seems like one of your regular, like, crime comedies and just, standard people in it. But it's a lot funnier than that.
It is. It's a farce, basically. And not enough movies try and take this direction with it. If you're trying to be comedy, you don't usually go with the mistaken identity or rug pulled out from under the main character every other scene kind of thing. You usually do more physical comedy or verbal comedy. I don't think Matthew Perry gets enough credit for physical comedy.
No, yeah, he's
especially
awesome
in this movie, because a lot of the laughs, like there's that scene where he gets taken into the room and Bruce Willis is there and he's not expecting them and he like runs into this lamp and falls down and it's all hilarious because he's working so hard to contort his body. I love The Whole Nine Yards.
That's rated R, right? Because
Yeah.
it's got some nudity.
Amanda
and some,
Pete comes out.
Oh yeah,
completely
you're right.
naked.
You're right.
I think that really helps it put it over the top because
The tits?
Indeed.
Oh, you mean the rated R?
It seems like these types of movies are rarely bold enough to go into R-rated territory.
Yeah.
And it's not like the movie's a raunch fest or anything
No.
like that. It's just like it's got a little bit more room to operate with the violence and the language and the nudity and stuff like that just makes it a little bit more
looser.
madcap.
It's looser.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that basically Kevin Pollak playing a character who his instructions from the director were, we don't want to understand anything you say.
It's so great.
I love everybody in this movie. It's just fantastic. It's
It
really
is,
good.
yeah.
Those are my two favorite Canadian
Okay.
movies.
Okay, so I'm going to cheat a little bit and say Kids in the Hall.
Okay.
Because Kids in the Hall, so I guess they may have started in the late 80s, but like right in the 90s was where they hit their stride. And it was like Kids in the Hall, The State. It was kind of the spiritual love child of SCTV and SNL and stuff like that, the sketch
Lorne
comedy
Michaels,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, and man, the Canadian humor in Kids in the Hall is what really like makes it different from something like The State or something like that. Dave Foley and Scott Thompson, those guys, like it's just hilarious. And then Brain Candy, I don't know if it's set in Canada, but it's super Canadian influence, so that's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what Kids in the Hall are where I learned, and I didn't learn it from Strange Brew, because again, Strange Brew and the like just seemed like Minnesotan humor to me. Like oh, they talk funny, okay. But this was where I learned that Canadians have a sense of humor that is just as unique and weird as British people.
Do you remember?
Different.
Do you remember the High Five and White Guys?
I don't remember very many specific sketches. I just remember it was one of those shows that like everybody knew about SNL, but if you knew about Kids in the Hall, you were extra cool.
Well, it was on
Exactly.
HBO. That was another part of it was that it was on cable and it could get away with some stuff, So
Yeah, it's so funny.
yeah.
Yeah, the high-fiving white guys were literally high-fiving white guys. They would they ended one sketch where they're like, let's drive around in our convertible Beamers, blasting out Huey Lewis and the News, and then they all just high-five each other. So great.
Oh,
Anyway, and I had an actual movie, but I think Chris actually...
Well, yeah, this is the reason
picked
why
the
I
same
had you
one.
go first, because just in case you did say this, I didn't want to overlap it. But Adam Agoyan has made 2 movies that I really, really like: Sweet Hereafter and Exotica.
I really like Exotica.
Yeah. Exotica's really good. Both of them have Bruce Greenwood in it. They're not playing the president.
He's not the president?
He's not the president.
The president of Canada?
Yeah.
Is Exotica the one that gave us Mia Kirshner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mia
that's what I thought.
Kirshner is a stripper in this, and Bruce Greenwood keeps going to it. And at first you're like, well, I guess he's got a thing for Mia Kirshner. We all would.
Sure.
But then you find out that he's really there just trying to get information about what's going on and everything. This is about a missing kid, and they're trying to find the missing kid and everything.
It's got such a cool vibe to it.
Yeah, it really does. And now when I watched it, I can't remember. I might have been 17 or 18 when I watched this. A little over my head at that time because I wasn't used to movies like this. But yeah, it's really, really well done. Sweet Hereafter is a devastating movie.
It's Ian Holm, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's Adam Agoyan been up to?
I don't know. I think he still makes movies, but I just whatever. I haven't seen anything since then.
I'm gonna Google this man.
But the Sweet Hereafter is about a bus crash and a school bus crash, and Ian Holm comes in. He wants to get a class action lawsuit with all the parents suing the school and the bus driver and all this other type of stuff. And so he's trying to get the stories from everybody. And of course, very much like a Rashomon or whatever, there's some different stories or whatever. But and they're reluctant to try to get in on this at first. But everybody's got these stories and everything. And Sarah Polley, younger Sarah, like she's 16 or 17.
Oh, really?
Is in this, and people. There's some things that keep changing throughout that and sort of the truths that are revealed in this movie about this bus crash, because they want to blame this bus driver and everything, but they have to have some actual proof that he was going too fast and all that. Were they actually paying attention? But that doesn't really do it justice. It's one of those movies that I feel like you must see this. It is devastating. If you don't want to be sad, don't watch it.
Did this come out the same year as The Ice Storm? Because I have connected these 2 films together in my brain as devastating movies made by young directors.
Let's see. Sweet Hereafter is 97, and Ice Storm is also 97.
All right, so I'm not crazy.
No.
All right, good. Both of those movies are devastating.
Yeah.
For different reasons, I guess.
Yeah. It also has probably one of the, and I hesitate to say coolest because it is a tragic event, but the way the bus crash is filmed is awesome. Like, and you would never wish this on people. I don't want anybody to get
the way those children died was cool.
I don't want people thinking that it's like the James Spader crash, and I'm like jerking off to it and shit.
Oh my God. Everything about that is terrible.
Oh, the power bonus.
Yes, it is. But no, it is. It doesn't have. I don't want to say anything about it, because if I tell you even how it's shot, then that will ruin the time that you have. So that is a movie that I would definitely recommend. Go and watch that.
Good flick.
And then Sarah Polley herself made a movie called Away from Her, which is really good.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would recommend that.
I wonder if she's from Canada.
Oh shit, yeah, she is.
Okay.
And a lot of David Cronenberg stuff is from there, because he's.
I know. Yeah, I saw that.
From Canada.
Canada.
Yeah.
My land of Canadians.
Yes.
Let's move on here. Love the podcast, guys. My question, all the way from England.
Oh, jolly good.
You sound like you're from London.
Yeah. Such a great scene. He's gushing blood, and he's like, you sound like you're from London. Anyway, all the way from England. What or who do you feel is most out of place in a movie in terms of casting and the character? This person's example always that they always come to is Tobey Maguire in The Great Gatsby. Always felt like he didn't belong in that role or movie at all. I'm not quite so sure about that. I think he's okay in that, but I understand the point.
Man, I just thought of one that's better than what I wrote down.
Oh.
For a very specific reason, Russell Crowe in Les Mis.
Yeah?
Yeah.
His acting is fine. His acting is even fine for that role. But when he sings, and he can hold a pitch, but his singing style is completely out of place in that movie.
Itinerary.
Yeah. I also wrote down Andy Garcia from Passengers. We've talked before about how they did film more stuff with him that got cut. But I was thinking about this last night. Whatever they filmed with him that got cut, they still hired too good of an actor for that role.
Absolutely.
Because 99% of the movie is done before Andy Garcia is going to show up, even if you use everything you shot with him. Like, what is there 15 minutes of movie, like setting up a new society aboard the ship that has trees on it?
Yeah.
No, there were like 2 other reaction shots and maybe a line of dialogue, and you hired one of the greatest actors for this teeny tiny role that was never very big. Anyway.
I wonder how long actual length of screen time that he gets. Because it feels literally like 5 seconds.
It's longer than 5, probably less than 30, and half of it is from behind.
Because they show him emerging from the door, and then he's looking at all the shit that's growing.
He looks up, and we see from behind him all the other shit that had grown, and it pans up while we hear Jennifer Lawrence.
How bizarre! It's bizarre enough. The Lawrence Fishburne stuff, he's way too good of an actor to get probably 10 minutes of screen time.
Oh yeah,
and then they bring in fucking Andy Garcia. That makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how that movie looks slick as fuck. I know they spent a penny on it, but they spent a little extra with those 2 roles that they didn't have to.
I'm going to say Leonardo DiCaprio in Gangs of New York.
Oh,
that's an interesting pick.
Yeah.
I like it.
I haven't seen this in forever, so maybe all of his work after this informs this as a better appearance or whatever, but leading up to Gangs of New York, he had never done like this dirty role type of thing. He didn't ever have like facial hair. He was always a boyish type of character and everything. And then when he did Gangs, it felt like somebody who was like way too young, who had not done enough stuff to earn being this kind of a character in the movie. And I don't remember a fucking thing about him in Gangs of New York other than his look. Yeah. And most of that's because Daniel Day-Lewis is just eating up the entire thing. But I haven't seen this in forever, and I could be wrong now, but I know that when I first saw Gangs, I was like, this just doesn't work for me. He just doesn't have that.
Yeah, I mean, you were only, 5-6 years removed from Titanic. He had done The Island.
He'd done The Island. But he's always
the beach. The beach, yeah.
Yeah, the beach.
You guys said The Island, and I went, what the fuck?
No, he was on the beach, and he had done maybe darker roles, but he was always very clean cut.
Yeah.
I don't think, aside from maybe the Man in the Iron Mask, I don't think I'd even seen facial hair on this guy.
Yeah. Well, and even the facial hair on him in Man in the Iron Mask looks like they glued it on.
Yeah.
Oh, it's wispy as shit, and it's wispy as shit in Gangs of New York too.
Yeah. And he had done all this stuff where he was just very this youthful, boyish look. For a while there, I didn't think the guy aged. But of course, you look back, you look at him now and look at him back then. He's definitely got some heft to him now, and some age and everything. But yeah, that movie back then, I wasn't quite buying right away. And maybe if I look at it now, be a different story.
It's more believable after seeing him in like The Departed and stuff like that. It's more believable now because I went back about a year ago and watched it, and while the movie is much worse than I remember it being, he's okay in it because we've seen him in more like grittier shit.
Yeah, but you can see him as this character.
Yeah, I could see it a lot more than when I watched the first time because you still have that like Titanic growing pains.
Yeah,
let's reference growing pains more on this episode than ever before.
Yeah,
my answer is the entirety of Alexander. The Oliver Stone movie about Alexander the Great.
Colin Farrell.
You
know what? I've never seen this movie.
Oh well, that's good. That is very good because not only do you have Colin Farrell, a very heavily Irish dude. He's not Irish in the movie, but he's Irish as fuck. As Alexander the Great. You have Angelina Jolie, who I think is like 10 months older than him, as his mother.
Didn't they also dye his hair blonde?
Yes, he was blonde in this.
Yeah, so that's another strike against it.
Anthony Hopkins is the narrator of this. Ptolemy, I think, is his name. And he's fine, but everything about this movie is wrong, starting with that whole Angelina Jolie and Colin Farrell thing. Oliver Stone apparently took a lot of liberties with this story, and he essentially retconned Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
Well, he's never taken those kind of liberties before.
I know, but it's like everybody was pissed off with him after this movie.
Well, yeah, and then there was also discussion because at the time people were like, "Well, Alexander did a lot of gay stuff."
He's shown as being potentially gay in the movie.
Yeah, but they're like they watered it down.
Right. Yeah.
Should I say that a different way?
No. That's exactly what it is. You had people on both sides.
Yeah.
Where like historians are like, no, he did all this gay shit. He was gay as fuck.
Yeah.
And then you had people who were like, no, he didn't know. Alexander was all about the pussy and all that shit.
Right, yeah.
But like,
what did all these people say about goddamn Greatest Showman, huh? Did they open their mouth there about the retconning of the real
oh my God.
P.T. Barnum?
Yeah.
Why do we give a shit about how Alexander the Great is coming off in modern movies, but we don't give a shit about that?
People got their panties all up in a wad. The historians, the gay rights activists, like the anti-gay and people like
you piss off both the gays and the anti-gays. You've done something very wrong.
Yeah,
the anti-Oliver Stone people. But yeah, this movie's a fucking mess, man.
But
It's awful.
It looked boring and terrible to me, and I just never wanted to see it.
And there was a point where Baz Luhrmann was going to do an Alexander movie with DiCaprio.
I remember that.
Because of this, he didn't. Yeah,
and then
crazy.
he did what instead? Gatsby, I guess.
No, he did
Moulin Rouge.
No,
Moulin Rouge would have been before.
He ended up doing Australia, I think.
Oh,
I don't, because Australia came out maybe a couple years after this, but he was going to do Alexander. Then he just sort of like he didn't do anything. Just and then I think Australia was his next.
That's like when Stanley Kubrick was going to do that Napoleon movie, and had everything like the lots rented and like the costumes all done.
Danny DeVito hired.
Danny DeVito was hired. But then another Napoleon Bonaparte movie came out and tanked at the box office, and or was critically reviled or something like that. And he decided, I'm not going to do it. And
it's interesting because now nobody makes those decisions anymore. Now they're like, oh, there's another movie exactly like my White House destruction movie. It's on, bitch.
Push forward. Yeah. There's another volcano movie. Let's do it.
No one stops anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a good one. You brought this up in a recent podcast. What would be an actor or actress that plays themselves in every movie? Best nominees for this person: Al Pacino, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and Melissa McCarthy. Now, that especially that last one, I'm down with. Al Pacino seems like he's trying to switch it up at the end of his career here, or towards the end of his career.
Yeah. It's tough with Pacino. You know, he's done just enough to where it's not always the case, but still, yeah. I mean, it kind of is.
From Sin of a Woman to Devil's Advocate.
Yeah.
It was basically the same.
Well, I've come to this place in my life where I've realized that whether or not I enjoy Kevin Hart depends pretty much entirely on what's going on around Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Because Kevin Hart is playing pretty much the same guy in Central Intelligence that he's playing in Welcome to the Jungle, Jumanji. But I found him funny in Jumanji, and I found him grating in Central Intelligence.
Yeah.
So if there's a good enough movie with good enough comedy around him, it works. But I don't think he's mixing up what he does from movie to movie.
No.
I think his what makes him funny is the same every time you see him.
He picks his spots, or they pick his spots in Welcome to the Jungle.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you're right.
There's
Because
like 30% less of him.
when Central Intelligence didn't have anybody but him and The Rock, and they didn't have a good script.
Right.
So comedy just became him hemming and hawing. That's not funny. Anyway, Kevin Hart was my nomination.
Have you seen that new J. Cole video with called Kevin's Heart that he's in? This I would strongly recommend this.
I haven't seen a music video since I wrote for Music Video Sins.
What this is it's a J. Cole song that's really, really good, but it follows Kevin Hart as Kevin Hart as he's going about his business. Like he's driving to the grocery store and he's going to a restaurant and like going into the bathroom and stuff like that. But it's based on, apparently I didn't even know this, like he cheated on his wife and apologized on Instagram.
Yeah.
So like everybody knew about all this stuff. And it's Kevin Hart, like he's at a stoplight and people are looking at him disapprovingly. And he's like, what the hell, man? And then he goes to the grocery store, and as he goes to check out, the entire store is looking at him and like they're shaking their heads disapprovingly. And he ends up going to the bathroom in this restaurant, this long row of urinals, and this guy walks right up to the one right beside him and starts peeing. He's like, Kevin, man, you did some weird shit right there. It's funny. It's awesome.
Does it pay off?
Yes. Yeah.
No, I mean, is he essentially... The way you've described it to me makes it sound like Kevin Hart wants a little sympathy for taking all the shit after he admitted cheating on his wife.
Yeah, the way he plays it off, first of all, it's a super muted performance. He's not doing any of his manic shit or anything like that. He barely has any dialogue in this. He basically is like, why is everyone looking at me and judging me right now? He's not asking for sympathy. He's just like, what the hell? Why is this like a topic of concern for everybody?
Interesting.
It didn't
if
come
you put it
off
on
as, like,
Instagram
sympathy.
and you're famous, that might be why people are talking about it.
That's true.
I'm just saying.
It's a good video, though.
I'm gonna say Tom Hanks.
Interesting. He does sort of play Tom Hanks everywhere.
He sure does.
Tom Hanks is. I mean, yeah. There's a couple of roles where he's not really playing, and Philadelphia is the one that comes to mind where he really does play a different character in that. Even in that, though, there's still shades of Hanks, like other roles in that and everything, but. For the most part, you get Hanks, that's what you're getting.
What do you think about Forrest Gump? That's a different version of...
It's Hanks with an accent.
With an accent, yeah.
The only movie, I'm sitting here trying to think, the only movie I think he's not playing Tom Hanks is Cloud Atlas. And it's only because that movie intentionally puts its actors in really weird costumes and makeup jobs, like intentionally. Like what's his name? Red Skull's playing a female nurse in
Red Skull.
Yes. And so I remember the Tom Hanks on that boat. I don't know if you guys have seen this movie or even remember it, but
it's there's the true.
Well, the true Tom Hanks is actually the most Tom Hanksian of any of the characters in that film, even though he's speaking with an accent. It's Tom Hanks with an accent. But on the boat, he's like got rotted teeth and he's evil and he's slowly poisoning not Jim Broadbent, 21 Jim.
Oh, Sturgis?
I love how fast you can get there when I brain fart because I can throw out random shit and you guys always know who I mean. Anyway, that is not Tom Hanks on that boat. He creeps me out, gives me the willies.
Interesting.
Sorry, I hijacked your answer to the question.
But no, there are a few that you can say that he's a little bit different. Or
but it's a few.
But it's, the other ones that you think of when you think of Hanks, Sleepless in Seattle, Splash, Big.
Even Saving Private Ryan.
Ryan. You've got Mail. You're getting Tom Hanks and That Thing You Do, and his basically a glorified cameo in that. But that's what you get most of the time. The other one I wrote down is John Cusack. I think you can say Cusack more than Hanks even.
I agree.
Cusack is generally always the same, no matter what.
Yeah, I love his shtick. I actually enjoy his role in 2012. I don't like the movie, but like. Where he's a limo driver and the Russian guy calls him up and he's like, "Where are you?" And he's like, "I'm hurtling to you at top speed." And he's like in the house.
Oh, yeah.
I like his thing, man. I
like John Cusack a lot, but you're right. I never really put him in that category, but you're totally right. He's playing John Cusack and everything.
Okay, so I've got two of them. The first one is, unfortunately, Kate McKinnon. Kate McKinnon is, I think, way too talented to be in the hole that she's in. It's almost like Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Where like she's super manic. She's going to be the oddball. It looks like this Spy Who Dumped Me is going to be more of the same. Ghostbusters. It's like she's the raunchy one that is manic and weird and stuff like that. And I hope she breaks out of it. Like we had talked about it before where like we think she's got some chops, maybe dramatically like a Kristen Wiig type of thing in the Skeleton Twins. She's got to find a vehicle probably soon for that to...
Yeah, that is like Skeleton Twins or something like that. Because it's getting now to the point where I've seen Kate McKinnon in enough movies where she always has to do that thing that she's known for.
Even in Ferdinand, she was doing the same thing.
She's doing that Ferdinand thing all the time.
Exactly.
And she has that cadence in everything she says. And so that's where we're getting at. Like, that was fine for a while. Now we're getting to the point where this is like all the time.
Yeah, imagine if all You just said her name.
Kristen Wiig?
Imagine if all Kristen Wiig had ever done was that I Have a Story About That Too character from SNL.
Gilly.
Yeah. I did that too, and I was number 1 in the world.
Mm-hmm.
If that was all she ever did from a comedy standpoint, then she would have, she'd be gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, yeah. What's weird is that even like the super talented ones, like Bill Hader, I was listening to on the Maltons actually. Bill Hader was saying, like, even though I was successful at SNL and in some movies and things like that, I couldn't get these dramatic roles. Like nobody was coming to me with these scripts, and it was just a happy accident that he got Skeleton Twins, and based on that, that's how he ended up getting Barry and different things like that.
Skeleton Twins?
Mm-hmm.
You guys have said that twice, and I don't know what that is.
It's a movie he did with Kristen Wiig where they're brother and sister, and I guess they're twins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. I just never heard of that movie.
It's a very different type of movie for him, and for her, too. And the other one that I came up with is Jeff Goldblum. I think we can all agree that starting at least at Jurassic Park forward, he's been Ian Malcolm / Jeff Goldblum.
I mean, even if you go back to the 70s, though, even in the little cameo he has in Annie Hall where he's calling up whoever and he's like, I've forgotten my mantra. and stuff like that. And The Fly, that's where he really starts Jeff Goldbluming out. That's another Cronenberg.
I guess,
by the way.
yeah, he kind of does in The Fly. I was thinking that was a little bit earlier for him, but yeah, I guess he still had those mannerisms back. Mm-hmm. But like right around really like Independence Day is where he solidifies
that whole like we love the
Goldblumism
type stuff started happening around then. Yeah. Well, that'll do it for this week. We'll get back to some more Marvel action.
Yeah, baby.
Next time, and we'll also have a Maltons episode coming up.
Woohoo!
But keep going to SinCast presented by Cinemasins on Facebook.
Tons of comments this week on the mini pod, on the Infinity pod.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Lots of people have come in and given their 2 cents about it. It seems to generally be positive about the movie and about what we said about it. I mean, there's obviously some things that people like get all upset about and stuff.
But we also covered a range of opinions on that movie, too.
We sure did.
I mean, not on purpose, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah. But keep going to SoundCloud, keep going to Twitter, Reddit. There's a lot of ways to talk about this episode and many more. But that'll do it for this week. Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Share. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
They shoot and it just goes in no matter what. Like you see the Penguins do that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Where like the Penguins, it doesn't matter what happens. Like
Used to be the Blackhawks.
They never get one of those. When they're on those rolls like that, it doesn't matter where they shoot the puck. It just finds a way in. It's like fucking Flubber or some shit.
Flubber.
Fucking Flubber.
Got a fuck ton of comments for the Infinity War thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's only the biggest movie ever.
That's true.
Yeah, and it made it on Tuesday alone. It fucking made $23 million.
Jesus Christ.
What
is it?
I'm beginning to think this might hit $700 million before Deadpool comes out.
Wow, can you imagine?
I know. That's just insane.
Well, people are seeing it like 3 or 4 times
That's
over the
true.
last week.
That's true.
Fucking insane.
Because just the fact there's nothing else coming out that is going to remotely touch this, and that people generally like it. I think it's probably only going to drop like 40% next weekend.
Right now, it's 305 million.
Yeah,
and 840 worldwide.
Yeah, and it just keeps making like 20 million on a weekday. Fuck me.
It's already made its money back in domestic gross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I assume it was about 300 million
In less than a week.
in less than a week.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So you're not going to see it again. You wouldn't go to the theaters and see it again, right?
I wouldn't, but I don't think that statement carries the weight it would if a normal moviegoer said that. I think I'm less likely to go to a movie twice in the theater than the average person.
Yeah, sure.
Even one that I liked a lot. Game Night is the only movie I've seen twice in theaters since Jesus. I can't even remember. It's before Cinemasins.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I guess it was Force Awakens.
And the only reason I saw Game Night twice was that I saw it once with my brother and liked it and knew my wife would like it, and I wanted to take my wife to it, and we wanted to have a date night, so we went to that. But ordinarily, my mindset is such that if I'm going to spend 2 hours doing something, I want it to be something I haven't done already. I want it to be something new. So, yeah, I mean, I also didn't like it enough that I'm going to be like, I got to go back. I mean, the moments that I liked will play just fine on my Blu-ray.
What's funny is that after we saw Infinity War on Thursday, we were supposed to have a date night with my wife on Friday night, and she was like, "Oh, let's go see A Quiet Place." And I was like, "Oh shit, I haven't seen that yet. That'd be a great idea." And it was at the theater like up until then, but then Infinity War took over all the screens.
Oh no, I was going to say, did you like A Quiet Place?
I didn't see it.
Yeah, bummer.
Did you see it? You haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet.
You saw it, right?
Yeah.
You really liked it.
Yeah, it's still probably my
can't
favorite
wait.
movie of the year.
I'm expecting it to be
Really?
outstanding.
Jonathan texted me. He said he went to the Belcourt and saw The Endless. He said it's like one of his favorite movies of the year. I haven't even heard of it.
I have to watch it.
The Endless?
The Endless. Endless.
Endless.
ENDLESS.
Like Endless Love?
Yes.
My endless love.
Yes, exactly like that. Did you guys see the Deadpool Celine Dion thing?
Nope.
They posted a music video. Celine Dion is on the Deadpool soundtrack, and they posted a music video today. And it's her out there in like this gown on the stage and everything, and she's singing dramatically, and then Deadpool comes out and starts dancing behind her.
Oh, really?
It's funny as shit.
That sounds funny.
I also saw the new Robin Hood trailer. There's a new Robin Hood.
Yeah, somebody wrote a tweet saying something like, here's a guy pitching the studio or whatever. And he's like, all right, I'm thinking Robin Hood. And the studio's like, go on. And he's like, nothing, just like every other fucking Robin Hood. And then the studio's like, here's $100 million.
Didn't Ridley Scott just do one like 5 years ago?
Yeah, it was Ridley. It was Russell Crowe.
Yeah, I actually... No, I never saw that one. Was it any good?
No.
Yeah, I never saw it either because even that one was too much.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus X Christ?
Yeah.
Jesus X Christ.
X Christ.
I just came up with a new expression.
I was reading an article and somebody said Jesus H God. It's like TJ Miller was an Office Christmas party. It was like shut the fuck door.
Yeah. Yeah. Might be the funniest part of that movie. Shut the fuck door.
All right. Do I have all my shit pulled up?
Yo, shit.
I like when he goes to the bathroom and there's a doodle on there of his sister having sex with him, and he's like, incest and rape? That's dark. Are we on Vox? God, I've been watching the shit out of Apollo 13 lately.
I love that movie. I haven't seen it in forever.
It's been playing on Showtime or Cinemax, one of them. God, they all run together. They might as well just be all one big movie channel. But it just, like, within the last week, it started running a heavy rotation, and every day I've been catching parts of it. It's just good shit.
When he's like, are we on Vox? And they're like, we are not. And he's like, okay, Houston.
Yeah.
I used to do that exact thing at my old theater where I would be in the office and the phone would ring. And I don't know, I get annoyed with phones ringing in general. So like anytime, especially in a day where it's just like a constantly fucking ringing or whatever. But if there were people in the office with me, the phone would start ringing and I'd be like, what? And I'd answer the phone and be like, Williamson Square. Hey.
Is that guy's middle name Wingdings?
Yes, Wingdings.
His middle name is a Microsoft font.
Yes.
Nicholas Wingdings Griffin.
That's right.
Well, I always just assumed it was winding.
I did too, yeah.
And of course it's winding.
Yeah.
I'm
glad I figured that out.
Because that's a verb. You can wind something.
Yeah.
We were out winding and
Yes.
collecting apples.
Collecting apples. Oh my god. That's a spoiler, I guess.
Mind Stone is later.
Yes.
There's some Marvel people out there going, God damn it!
Well, we're going to cut some of this. We're going to cut some of this down. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
There's going to be some cut down here, but yeah, just what are they calling it?
Extremists?
The extremists. Yeah. I was about to say TARDIS.
Glad I could help